Across the globe, buried beneath layers of time, lie ancient secrets that defy explanation. From eerie structures etched into forgotten landscapes to mysterious artifacts that seem to whisper of a lost civilization, humanity's past is not as clear-cut as we believe. What forces shaped the enigmatic monuments that have stood for millennia? What knowledge was hidden away, never to be understood? In the depths of history, unsettling riddles remain unsolved, waiting for someone to piece them together. Join us as we unravel bizarre archaeological mysteries that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about our origins. Tucked away in the heart of the Irish countryside, near the slopes of the Wicklow Mountains, lies Rathgall Stone Fort, a site so ancient that its true origins remain shrouded in mystery. Its massive stone walls, weathered by centuries of wind and rain, rise starkly against the lush green landscape, seemingly untouched by time. The fort's imposing structure, a series of concentric stone rings, suggests a once mighty and sophisticated stronghold. But what was its purpose, and who were the people who built it? The construction of Rathgall dates back to the early centuries of the first millennium BC, likely sometime around 600 BC. It is believed to have been part of the defensive network of early Celtic societies that dotted the Irish landscape, a place where tribes could retreat in times of danger. The fort's sheer scale is remarkable. A series of high stone walls encircle the inner sanctum of the fort, with carefully constructed gateways and internal passages that remain astonishingly intact. The sheer labor and skill required to build such a monument without the aid of modern tools speaks to the ingenuity of its creators. Historically, Rathgall is classified as a Hillfort, a type of settlement common throughout prehistoric Europe. But the mystery begins to deepen when one considers the purpose of the fort. While some archaeologists argue that it was a defensive stronghold, others suggest that it may have had a more ceremonial or symbolic role. Could it have been a place of religious significance, where leaders performed rites or consulted with gods? Or perhaps it was the seat of power for a local tribe, an isolated and fortified residence for a ruling family. The stone walls themselves seem to whisper a forgotten story, but no clear narrative has ever emerged. Adding to the enigma of Rathgall is the peculiar construction of its walls. While many ancient forts were built using a technique known as dry stone masonry, Rathgall's walls stand out for their impressive size and precision. Some stones, particularly in the interior rings, appear to have been worked with remarkable care. Is it possible that the fort was built using knowledge lost to history? And why were such massive stones used? Stones that would have been incredibly difficult to transport and shape with the tools of the time. As we delve deeper into the history of Rathgall, the theories become more speculative. Some have suggested that the site may have been linked to ancient Celtic astronomical practices, perhaps serving as an observatory or calendar. Given its position on the landscape, one wonders whether the builders had an intimate understanding of the heavens, aligning the stones with the solstices or lunar cycles. Such knowledge would place the people who built Rathgall in a category far more advanced than we typically associate with Iron Age societies. But the mystery doesn't end there. Local legends tell of strange occurrences and inexplicable happenings in and around the site. Some say that during certain times of the year, the wind seems to carry whispers from the ancient past, voices that echo through the stone passages, as if the very stones themselves hold memories of those who once lived there. Could this be the result of natural acoustics, or is there something more? Are these echoes a form of residual energy left behind by the lives of those long gone, or are they simply figments of folklore? It's difficult to say. There are also reports of the fort's connection to ancient burial rituals, with some archaeologists pointing to the discovery of human remains in the surrounding area. Were these individuals buried near the fort, suggesting that the site served as a sacred ground? And if so, who were these people? Tribal leaders, warriors, or common folk? The lack of definitive answers only fuels further speculation. Despite extensive excavations and research, Rathgall Stone Fort continues to resist a clear explanation. Its function, its builders, and its role in the larger context of Celtic and Irish history remain elusive. As the wind rustles through the ancient stones, one is left to wonder what remains hidden beneath the surface of this enigmatic monument. Could there be secrets still buried beneath the earth, waiting to be unearthed by future generations? Or is Rathgall merely a quiet testament to a forgotten past, with no more answers than the stones themselves are willing to give? As we continue our journey through time, moving from the rugged hills of Ireland to the vast and arid landscapes of Peru, we encounter yet another mystery that has both fascinated and puzzled archaeologists for decades: the sacred city of Caral. Located in the Soup Valley, about 120 miles north of Lima, Caral is one of the oldest known cities in the Americas, with a history that stretches back over 5,000 years to around 2600 BC. But what secrets lie buried within this ancient city, and why does it remain so shrouded in mystery? Caral is unlike anything else found in the Americas. It is not just a city, but a vast urban center, with monumental architecture and a complex societal structure that predates even the great civilizations of ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia. The site is home to vast plazas, pyramid-like structures, and an intricate network of roads and buildings, all of which suggest a society that was highly organized and deeply connected to the forces of nature. The most striking feature of Caral is its architecture. The city is built around a series of large pyramidal structures, the largest of which, known as the Great Pyramid, rises 18 meters high and dominates the landscape. These monumental structures, built with immense blocks of stone, are remarkably similar in design to those found in other ancient cultures, like those of Egypt and Mesopotamia. Yet Caral's pyramids were constructed long before these civilizations had even begun to form. How did the builders of Caral, with their relatively simple tools and technology, manage to create such impressive structures? What knowledge did they possess? And where did it come from? For decades, scholars have debated the purpose of Caral. Was it a religious center, a place where the elite gathered to perform rituals and ceremonies? Or was it more than that, an early center of governance, where political power was consolidated? The presence of large ceremonial platforms and sunken plazas suggests that the city may have served as a place for social gatherings and public rituals. But the absence of large-scale warfare or defensive structures raises another question. Was Caral a society that existed in peace, without the threat of invasion or conquest? Or did its inhabitants simply not need to defend themselves, as their influence and power came from something entirely different, perhaps spiritual or economic control? Adding to the intrigue of Caral is the discovery of a series of musical instruments, flutes made from the bones of animals, including sea mammals, found within the city. These instruments suggest that music played an important role in the culture of Caral, and that the people who lived there may have had a deep connection to the natural world. But why would such instruments be so prominent in a city that seems to have been primarily focused on agriculture, architecture, and governance? Could music have been a form of communication, perhaps even a way to control or influence the people? Or were these flutes part of some larger, more mysterious spiritual practice? While the mainstream theory suggests that Caral was a thriving urban center, some alternative theories hint at even more enigmatic possibilities. Some have speculated that the city's construction could have been influenced by extraterrestrial knowledge, with its advanced engineering techniques and precise alignment to the cardinal directions. Others have suggested that Caral could be part of a larger network of ancient cities that shared a secret hidden knowledge that allowed them to build massive, awe-inspiring monuments long before other civilizations. Could Caral have been an outpost of an even older, more advanced civilization, lost to time and history? Or could it be that the people of Caral were simply ahead of their time, possessing knowledge that we are only beginning to uncover? The question of Caral's true purpose becomes even more intriguing when we consider the presence of a vast, carefully planned irrigation system. The people of Caral, despite living in a desert region, managed to cultivate a wide variety of crops, including cotton, beans, and squash. This irrigation system, which relies on a series of canals and reservoirs, is incredibly sophisticated for its time. How did the builders of Caral possess such advanced knowledge of water management? Could this knowledge have been passed down from an even earlier, forgotten civilization? Or was it the product of careful observation and adaptation to the harsh environment? Despite years of excavation and research, many of the mysteries of Caral remain unsolved. No written records have been found, and the city's inhabitants left behind few clues as to their culture or beliefs. What we do know, however, is that Caral was a remarkable society, a society that thrived long before the rise of the great empires of the Andes. Its influence can be seen in the subsequent development of Andean cultures, and yet its true significance continues to elude us. What was the true purpose of Caral? Was it a religious center, a political hub, or something entirely different, something we have yet to understand? And what knowledge did the people who built it possess that allowed them to thrive in such an inhospitable environment? As we continue to unearth the secrets of this ancient city, we are left with more questions than answers. Caral, like so many other ancient mysteries, remains an enigma, a silent witness to a time long past, holding its secrets tightly within the stones of its great pyramids. And as we stand on the threshold of this ancient city, we are left to wonder, what other forgotten civilizations are waiting to be uncovered, hidden beneath the sands of time, their stories waiting to be told? As we leave behind the vast deserts of Peru and the sacred pyramids of Caral, our journey takes us to the ancient foothills of Iran, where another enigma lies in wait: the Hasanlu stone citadel. Situated in the lush plains of the Azerbaijani region, near the shores of Lake Urmia, Hasanlu is a site steeped in both grandeur and mystery, a place where history and tragedy intertwine in a way that has captured the imagination of archaeologists for over a century. The citadel itself sits atop a steep mound, surrounded by a natural defensive landscape of hills and waterways, offering a commanding view of the surrounding valley. The stone walls that once encircled the site still stand, though weathered by millennia of time. The remnants of ancient structures are scattered across the site, hinting at the bustling life that once filled this fortified city. Yet, even as these stones stand as silent witnesses to a long-forgotten past, they speak of a civilization lost to history, with no clear answers about who its people were or what happened to them. Hasanlu is believed to have been a major city during the Iron Age, roughly between 800 BC and 500 BC, part of the larger Urartian and Medo-Persian world that spanned across much of ancient Anatolia and Iran. The city was strategically placed, with natural defenses that made it an ideal fortress. Excavations have revealed the remains of palaces, temples, and fortifications, each offering glimpses into a society that had mastered the art of war, governance, and trade. But despite its impressive remains, Hasanlu's true purpose remains unclear. What sets Hasanlu apart from other ancient sites is the chilling and mysterious end that seems to have come upon the city. When the site was excavated in the 1950s, archaeologists uncovered a layer of ash and destruction, signaling that the city had been violently abandoned. In one particularly eerie discovery, the remains of its inhabitants were found scattered throughout the ruins, their bodies frozen in time as if they had been caught in the throes of a sudden, catastrophic event. Some were found clutching their weapons, others near the gates, as if attempting to flee, but all had met a sudden and violent end. What caused the fall of such a prosperous city? Was it a siege, an invasion, or something more mysterious? The most famous artifact discovered at Hasanlu is the so-called Hasanlu gold bowl, a delicately crafted piece of jewelry that depicts a mysterious scene. The bowl, made of gold and intricately engraved, shows a figure seated with animals gathered around, possibly a representation of an ancient ritual or a mythological story. But the true meaning behind this artifact remains speculative. Was it a depiction of the city's religious practices, a record of their beliefs, or a piece of propaganda meant to demonstrate the power of their rulers? The bowl, like so many other objects found at Hasanlu, offers more questions than answers. Many believe that the violent destruction of the city was the result of a foreign invasion, likely from the neighboring Medes or another neighboring power. The evidence of fire and destruction in the city's layers suggests that a sacking or siege may have taken place. Yet, no clear evidence has been found to identify the invaders. Was it the Medes, who were known to have fought with various groups in the region during this time? Or was it another, more mysterious force that caused the city's downfall? Some have even proposed that the city may have been destroyed by an internal rebellion, perhaps spurred on by social unrest or political intrigue. However, there is a more speculative and darker theory that lingers over Hasanlu, one that suggests the possibility of something far more unsettling. Could it be that the city was not destroyed by any earthly force, but by something else entirely? Some have posited that the sudden and inexplicable violence that led to Hasanlu's fall could have been the result of a natural disaster, such as an earthquake or a violent volcanic eruption. While no direct evidence of such an event has been found, the region has historically been prone to seismic activity. Could it be that the city was simply unlucky, caught in the wrong place at the wrong time? Then there are the more fringe theories, which suggest that Hasanlu's destruction may have been linked to some sort of lost or forbidden knowledge. The city, after all, was a place of great wealth and cultural significance. Its inhabitants had access to advanced metallurgical techniques, as evidenced by the beautiful artifacts found within the ruins. Could they have been in possession of knowledge that was deemed dangerous, leading to their sudden fall? The idea that an ancient civilization may have possessed secrets too powerful for the world to understand is not new, but it remains an intriguing possibility. Despite these speculations, one thing is certain: Hasanlu's destruction remains one of the great mysteries of the ancient world. The evidence left behind at the site offers glimpses into a once thriving culture, but the reasons for its downfall are elusive. The abruptness of the city's demise, the eerie remains of its people, and the unresolved questions surrounding its final days leave us wondering, what truly happened at Hasanlu? Was it a sudden attack, a natural disaster, or something even darker, an ancient secret lost to time? As we stand among the ruins of this long-abandoned citadel, we are left to contemplate the untold stories that still lie buried beneath the earth. What other forgotten civilizations, with their knowledge, rituals, and mysteries, await discovery? And, in the case of Hasanlu, what truths about our ancient past are still waiting to be unearthed? The answers may be lost to history, but the questions remain ever present, an invitation to keep searching, to keep digging, to keep wondering. As we leave behind the ruins of Hasanlu and the mysteries of ancient Persia, our journey now takes us across the Channel, to the mist-covered hills of Somerset in southwest England, where another enigma awaits, the ancient site of Cadbury Castle. Here, nestled among sweeping landscapes of green, at the foot of the Mendip Hills, lies an earthwork fortress that has captured the imagination of historians, archaeologists, and legends alike for centuries. Its simple yet imposing structure, crowned by the remains of a large hill fort, presents an unsettling question. What secrets lie buried beneath the soil of this ancient place? The most striking feature of Cadbury Castle is its elevated position. Situated atop a steep hill, The site commands a panoramic view of the surrounding countryside, a strategic vantage point that would have been invaluable to any civilization that sought to defend its people. The fortification consists of a series of massive earthen banks and ditches constructed to create multiple layers of defense. These fortifications, still standing today, are an impressive testament to the ingenuity and skill of the people who built them. The sheer scale of the construction suggests that Cadbury Castle was once a place of great significance. But who were the builders, and why was such an immense effort put into its construction? Cadbury Castle is generally believed to have been established during the Late Bronze Age or Early Iron Age, around 1000 BC to 500 BC. Archaeological excavations have uncovered evidence of continuous occupation, with artifacts ranging from pottery to tools, revealing a thriving community living in the shadow of the castle's formidable walls. But despite its ancient heritage, the site's true identity remains elusive, with various theories swirling around its purpose and its role in the larger context of British prehistory. Historically, Cadbury Castle is most famous for its association with the legendary King Arthur. According to medieval texts, the site is said to be the location of Camelot, the mythical kingdom that served as the backdrop for Arthur's court. This link has fascinated historians and romantics alike, drawing many to the site with the hope of uncovering evidence that might confirm the existence of the fabled king. But how much of this association is rooted in fact, and how much is the product of centuries of myth and legend? Could this ancient hill fort really be the location of one of the greatest legends of the British Isles? The connection between Cadbury Castle and King Arthur stems from sources such as Geoffrey of Monmouth's History of the Kings of Britain, written in the 12th century, where it is described as the place where Arthur established his court. The legendary Camelot was often depicted as a place of immense power, a center of culture, governance, and heroism. But while many believe the location to be a romantic invention, others argue that the enduring connection between Cadbury Castle and Arthurian legend is based on more than mere fantasy. For decades, archaeologists have worked to uncover physical evidence that might link the site to the Arthurian tales. Some have suggested that the large, impressive ramparts and the fortification's strategic positioning could have made it an ideal location for a royal court. But the evidence is still inconclusive. No direct references to Arthur or his knights have ever been found at Cadbury Castle, and no artifacts have been unearthed that can definitively confirm the castle as the legendary Camelot. However, a more intriguing question begins to surface. Could the legend of King Arthur be rooted in the very real events of a much earlier time, when warriors and kings were battling for dominance in the British landscape? Was the story of Camelot based on the real lives of kings who once held court at Cadbury Castle, their deeds eventually immortalized through myth? If so, the site of Cadbury Castle could be much more than a simple hill fort. It could be the resting place of ancient power and authority, lost to the mists of time, only to be preserved in the collective memory of a culture that long outlasted its original creators. Yet, there are other, more speculative theories about the purpose of Cadbury Castle that may stray farther from the conventional explanations. Some have posited that the hill fort may not have been simply a military stronghold or royal residence, but a place of ritual or even spiritual significance. The layout of the site, with its concentric rings of earthworks, could suggest that it was designed with symbolic intent, perhaps aligned with astronomical phenomena or ancient beliefs about the cosmos. Did the builders of Cadbury Castle possess a deeper, more esoteric knowledge, one that has long been forgotten? Others have suggested that the site's continued use as a fortress during the Iron Age may indicate that it was a center of power in a society that relied heavily on trade, agriculture, or some form of elite control. Could Cadbury Castle have been a hub of political activity, with its rulers using the hill fort to exert dominance over the surrounding territory? If so, what kind of society lived here, and what role did it play in the larger geopolitical landscape of prehistoric Britain? But perhaps the most unsettling possibility of all is that the true purpose of Cadbury Castle may be something we have yet to fully understand. What if it wasn't just a place of power, defense, or myth, but a site that held a far darker secret, one that has been obscured by time and legend? What mysteries could still lie hidden beneath its ancient mounds, waiting to be discovered? The legend of King Arthur, the extraordinary construction of the Hillfort, and the elusive answers to the city's purpose create an atmosphere of intrigue, suggesting that Cadbury Castle is far more than just an ancient ruin. It is a place where history and myth blur together, where questions remain unanswered, and where the possibility of discovery still lingers in the air, like the mist that shrouds the Hillfort itself. And so, we are left with more questions than answers. Was Cadbury Castle truly the home of Camelot? Or was it something more? A forgotten stronghold of a vanished society? And what other stories, lost to time, might still be hidden within the earth at Cadbury Castle, waiting for those brave enough to unearth them? As we leave behind the mist-shrouded hills of Cadbury Castle and journey eastward, we find ourselves amidst the vast, wind-swept steppes of Kazakhstan, where another ancient enigma awaits, the Begazy megalithic Mausolea. Far from the bustling cities of modern civilization, this remote and desolate region is home to an incredible, yet largely unexplored archaeological site that speaks to the lost and forgotten peoples of the Eurasian steppes. The Begazy Mausolea, located in the southern part of Kazakhstan, consists of a series of megalithic burial structures, their massive stone slabs arranged in intricate geometric patterns. At first glance, these ancient tombs might appear unremarkable, just clusters of weathered stones scattered across a barren landscape. But the scale and precision of their construction are far from ordinary. The site features monumental stone markers, some weighing several tons, and intricate stone circles that suggest a deep knowledge of engineering and symbolism. These megaliths are not merely piles of rock, but carefully placed structures that were intended to stand the test of time, enduring for millennia. The mausolea at Begazy are believed to date back to the early Iron Age, around 1200 BC to 700 BC. This period marks the height of the Andronovo culture, a complex society that inhabited the vast Eurasian steppe. The Andronovo people, known for their skills in metallurgy, horse riding, and warfare, left behind a rich legacy in the form of burial mounds and megalithic structures such as those found at Begazy. These burial sites were constructed for the elite members of their society, suggesting a hierarchical and sophisticated culture, one that placed great importance on the afterlife and the preservation of the dead. Yet, despite the wealth of archaeological evidence, the true purpose of the Begazy Mausolea remains shrouded in mystery. Why were these vast stone structures built in such a remote and isolated region? And what is the significance of the intricate and geometric patterns that adorn the burial sites? While mainstream archaeology suggests that these mausolea served as tombs for the ruling class, others have proposed more speculative theories, raising questions that reach beyond the purely practical or funerary. Some scholars argue that the geometric arrangements of the megaliths could have had a symbolic or ritualistic purpose, possibly linked to ancient religious practices. The precise alignment of the stones, some arranged in a series of concentric circles or in other geometric patterns, suggests that the site may have been used for astronomical observations or spiritual ceremonies. Could the Andronovo people have had a sophisticated understanding of the cosmos, aligning their burial sites with celestial events such as solstices or equinoxes? The location of the mausolea, perched atop a series of low hills, would have provided an excellent vantage point for observing the stars. Was this site a kind of ancient observatory, a sacred ground where the dead were honored not just in the physical realm, but in the heavens above? Adding to the intrigue are the unusual artifacts discovered at Begazy. Archaeologists have uncovered a variety of items, from pottery to weapons, which seem to suggest that the Andronovo people placed great importance on their elite's military prowess. But among these finds, there are also more puzzling objects, such as intricately carved stone plaques and figurines that seem to depict animals, both real and fantastical. These carvings do not appear to serve any functional purpose, which raises the question, what did they represent to the people who created them? Were they symbolic of spiritual beliefs, or perhaps of a belief system that tied the elite's power to forces beyond the earth, forces that could be harnessed through rituals and offerings? The burial practices at Begazy also offer a tantalizing glimpse into the beliefs of the Andronovo culture. The tombs themselves are not simple graves, but elaborate constructions that seem to mirror the architecture of the living world. Some mausolea are arranged with distinct chambers, separated by stone walls, and filled with grave goods meant to accompany the dead into the afterlife. In one particularly intriguing tomb, archaeologists uncovered the remains of a horse buried alongside its rider, suggesting that the Andronovo elite may have believed in a form of afterlife in which they continued to wield power and influence, perhaps even in a spiritual sense. But why horses, specifically? Was the presence of the horses meant to signify the deceased's importance as a warrior or leader, or was it part of a larger belief system connected to the natural world? As is often the case with ancient sites, the further we delve into the history of Begazy, the more questions arise. While mainstream theories focus on the site's role as a burial ground for the elite, some more fringe ideas have emerged that suggest Begazy was a center for something more extraordinary. Could the Begazy mausolea be part of an even older, pre-Andronovo civilization, one whose advanced understanding of geometry, astronomy, and ritual was lost to time? Could the site have been a place of power and influence that reached far beyond the steppe, potentially connected to other ancient cultures across Eurasia? Some have even speculated that the megalithic structures at Begazy may have had a purpose that we have yet to fully understand, one that transcends our modern notions of burial or ritual. Was the site built as a kind of power center, a place where the dead held sway over the living? Their influence exerted through symbols and alignments that we are only beginning to decipher. Could the purpose of Begazy have been tied to forces or practices that we no longer comprehend, practices that vanished with the Andronovo culture itself? The mysteries of the Begazy megalithic mausolea, with their colossal stones, strange carvings, and unexplained astronomical alignments, remain largely unsolved. We know that this site was of great importance to the people who built it, but its deeper significance eludes us. Was it simply a burial ground, or something far more complex, a sacred site imbued with meaning that we have yet to fully grasp? As the wind sweeps across the steppes, the stones of Begazy continue to stand, silent witnesses to a past long gone. And perhaps, buried deep within the earth, the answers to these mysteries remain hidden, waiting for the right questions to be asked. As we journey further into the shadows of ancient history, our path now takes us to the rugged hills of southern Albania, where a mysterious settlement, seemingly untouched by time, sits quietly in the landscape. Hidden away in the Selca Valley, the Selca stone settlement is a remarkable, albeit little-known site that has captivated archaeologists and researchers for decades. With its distinctive stone structures and isolated position, the settlement evokes a sense of timelessness and mystery, a place where the echoes of an ancient civilization still resonate in the quiet hills. At first glance, the site appears deceptively simple, an array of stone foundations and walls scattered across the hillside. But a closer inspection reveals a striking pattern. The stones, some of which are massive and carefully shaped, form structures that are not easily explained by conventional historical narratives. The stones themselves, quarried from the nearby mountains, have been carefully placed with precision, suggesting a people with advanced knowledge of engineering. But who were these people, and why did they build such a settlement in this remote and rugged part of the world? The Selca stone settlement is believed to date back to the early Iron Age, around 1000 BC to 500 BC, though the exact timeline remains uncertain. Archaeologists have uncovered evidence of a thriving community that lived here, including the remains of circular and rectangular dwellings, along with various artifacts such as pottery, tools, and weapons. The settlement's strategic location, perched on a hill and surrounded by natural defenses, suggests it may have been a fortified outpost, possibly used to defend against external threats. But the question remains: why was this settlement built so far from the major centers of ancient civilization in the Mediterranean? Mainstream theories suggest that the Selca stone settlement was part of the broader Illyrian culture, a group of tribes that inhabited the Western Balkans during the early Iron Age. The Illyrians were known for their warrior societies, their intricate burial rituals, and their skilled metalworking, and it is likely that the people who built Selca were part of this complex and diverse cultural group. However, despite the clear indications that the settlement was inhabited by the Illyrians, there are many aspects of Selca that remain deeply puzzling. For one, the layout of the settlement itself defies easy explanation. The stone structures at Selca do not resemble typical Illyrian dwellings, which were often simple wooden huts or earth-based constructions. Instead, the Selca site features large, carefully constructed stone buildings, some of which appear to have been arranged in a planned, deliberate pattern. The use of such large stones, and the precision with which they were cut and placed, suggests a level of sophistication that was not typically associated with the Illyrians. Could the people of Selca have been part of an even older, more advanced civilization, one that predates what we know of the Illyrians? Or was there some other, as yet unknown factor influencing their construction techniques? The most intriguing aspect of the Selca stone settlement, however, is the mystery surrounding its purpose. While it is widely believed to have been a settlement, the lack of any substantial evidence of agriculture, trade, or large-scale industry at the site raises questions about its true role. Was Selca primarily a military outpost, designed to protect the surrounding region from invaders? Or was it something more, a ceremonial or religious site, perhaps, where ancient rituals were performed? Some researchers have suggested that the unusual layout of the settlement, with its circular and square structures, might be a clue to its spiritual or symbolic significance. Could Selca have been a sacred site, designed to align with astronomical events or cosmic cycles, as many other ancient cultures did with their sacred places? Adding to the mystery of Selca are the strange artifacts that have been uncovered at the site. Among the most puzzling are a series of intricately carved stone reliefs, some of which depict human and animal figures in unusual poses, as well as abstract symbols that are not easily interpreted. These carvings do not appear to follow any known artistic tradition of the time, leading some to wonder whether they are the remnants of a lost belief system. What were these carvings meant to represent, and why were they placed at such a remote site? Were they part of a larger religious or cultural practice? Or could they be evidence of a civilization with a deeper, more mysterious understanding of the world around them? Another theory suggests that Selca might have been part of a larger network of settlements, all connected by a common cultural or spiritual bond. If this is the case, the settlement at Selca may have served as a hub for communication, trade, or even pilgrimage. Its location, tucked away in the hills yet strategically placed near important natural resources, could have made it a key point of exchange or connection between different cultures of the ancient world. If Selca was indeed part of such a network, then the story of its people and the mysteries they left behind might be more intertwined with the larger history of the Mediterranean and the Balkans than we can yet comprehend. Despite years of excavation and research, the true identity and purpose of the Selca stone settlement remain elusive. No written records have been found, and the lack of any definitive artifacts linking the site to a known civilization makes it difficult to place the settlement within the broader context of ancient history. And yet, the stones and carvings that remain on the hillsides continue to speak to us, whispering fragments of a long-lost story. Could the settlement have been a place of great power and influence, or was it a humble village, built to honor the natural world? And why, after so many centuries, does it remain so mysterious? The Selca stone settlement, with its enigmatic stones and unexplained symbols, is a place where history and mystery collide. It stands as a reminder that, for all our knowledge of the ancient world, there are still places, hidden in plain sight, that remain beyond our understanding. The secrets of Selca may one day be uncovered, or they may continue to elude us, preserved in the stone for future generations to ponder. Whatever the case may be, the settlement at Selca invites us to wonder. What other lost civilizations, with their ancient knowledge and untold stories, still lie hidden beneath the earth, waiting to be discovered? As we leave the enigmatic stone structures of the Selca stone settlement, we now travel to the windswept northern edges of England, where another mystery lies hidden beneath the rolling hills and ancient landscapes. Here, perched on a rocky outcrop overlooking the dramatic countryside, stands the fortress of Housteads, one of the most intriguing remnants of Roman Britain. It's a site that speaks to both the might of an empire and the uncertainty of a turbulent frontier, where Roman soldiers, surrounded by the raw wilds of the north, were stationed in a land that was both alien and hostile. The remains of Housteads are part of the Grand Hadrian's Wall, a fortification built by the Romans around 122 AD to mark the northernmost boundary of their empire in Britain. From its strategic position, the fortress offers sweeping views of the surrounding terrain, which would have been key for Roman soldiers tasked with monitoring the indigenous Celtic tribes and protecting Roman interests from potential uprisings or invasions. The site itself is a striking one, with its well-preserved foundations, granaries, bathhouses, and even a small temple to the Roman gods. However, beneath its orderly rows of stone walls and meticulously planned layout, there are still unanswered questions, lingering mysteries about the purpose of Housteads and the people who lived and died there. Unlike many other Roman fortifications, which were designed with a more straightforward military function in mind, Housteads displays a surprising level of complexity. The walls of the fortress, which once stood several meters high, enclose a rectangular space that housed a garrison of soldiers, with separate areas for officers, the common soldiers, and even civilians who may have been part of the Roman supply chain. It's clear that Housteads was not merely a military outpost, but a small, self-sustaining community. But why was it chosen as the site for such an important fort? And why did the Romans build such a substantial and permanent structure in a region so remote and perilous? Historically, the Romans built Hadrian's Wall as a defensive measure against the tribes of northern Britain, particularly the Picts, who were known for their resistance to Roman rule. Housteads, as one of the forts along the wall, would have played a crucial role in this defense. The fort's size and layout suggest it was a highly organized military base, with everything the soldiers needed to survive the harsh northern winters, from water storage systems to heating in the barracks. But as with many Roman outposts, the question arises, was it purely a military station, or was it part of something more, something that has yet to be fully understood? While Housteads served as a vital defense, there are elements of the site that suggest it may have had a dual purpose, perhaps one that went beyond the realm of simple warfare. Archaeological evidence points to the presence of a vicus, or civilian settlement, adjacent to the fort. This suggests that Housteads may have been a hub of both military activity and trade, with civilians engaging in commerce and other services to support the Roman soldiers. But could there be more to this settlement than meets the eye? Some researchers have speculated that the location of Housesteads, with its commanding views of the surrounding landscape, may have been strategically chosen not just for defense, but for its significance in Roman religious or astronomical practices. Was it a sacred site? A place where soldiers and civilians alike could look to the heavens for guidance or solace in an uncertain world? Adding to the mystery are the enigmatic carvings and inscriptions found in and around Housesteads. On several stones, researchers have discovered carvings that appear to be symbols or figures, but their exact meaning remains elusive. Some suggest that these symbols may have had religious significance, while others propose they could be related to military codes or even personal markers left behind by the soldiers who once inhabited the fort. Why would the Romans leave such cryptic markings, and what could they have been trying to communicate? Was this an expression of Roman identity, a way for the soldiers to assert their place in a distant land? Or were these symbols part of something deeper, perhaps a form of mysticism or secret knowledge? Even more intriguing are the remains of a small temple located within the fort, dedicated to Roman deities. This temple, though modest in size, was likely an important religious center for the soldiers stationed at Housesteads. Temples like this were not uncommon in Roman forts, as religion was deeply intertwined with the Roman way of life. But why build a temple in such a remote location, so far from the grand urban centers of Roman Britain? Was it simply a reflection of Roman religious practices, or did the location hold some special significance? Some scholars speculate that the temple could have been dedicated to a deity or a set of beliefs unique to the northern frontier, perhaps reflecting the soldiers' need for spiritual protection against the harsh environment and the hostile tribes that surrounded them. Was this site a kind of sanctuary? A place where the Roman soldiers could seek divine favor and guidance as they faced the dangers of the north? As we dig deeper into the history of Housesteads, we also come across a fascinating and somewhat eerie element of the site: the presence of numerous human remains. Some of these bodies show signs of violent death, suggesting that the fort may have seen battles and skirmishes, particularly in the early years after its construction. But other remains show signs of unusual burial practices. Bodies placed in strange, almost ritualistic positions, with no clear explanation for their placement. Were these people soldiers, victims of an attack, or something else entirely? Could there be a deeper, more spiritual reason behind their burials, an ancient custom that has been lost to time? The ultimate mystery surrounding Housesteads lies in its abandonment. Around the early 5th century A.D., the Roman Empire began to withdraw its forces from Britain, leaving its northern frontier undefended. Housesteads, like many other forts along Hadrian's Wall, was abandoned and left to fall into ruin. But what happened to the soldiers, the civilians, and the settlers who had once called this place home? Some believe that the Picts, emboldened by the Roman withdrawal, may have overrun the site. Others suggest that the abandonment was simply part of a larger, slow decline in Roman power across the empire. Yet, we are left with a lingering question. What truly caused the Romans to leave this fort? And what did they leave behind? Housesteads stands as a silent witness to a forgotten past, its stones holding the secrets of the Roman frontier. Its role as both a military stronghold and a possible spiritual center raises questions about the ways in which ancient civilizations understood their place in the world. The symbols, inscriptions, and mysterious burials left behind by the Romans invite us to ask, what did Housesteads mean to the people who lived there? Was it merely a fortress, or was it something more, an intersection of power, belief, and history that has yet to reveal all its secrets? As we leave behind the Roman remnants of Hadrian's Wall and the enigmatic fortress of Housesteads, we travel southward into the heart of Spain, where another ancient enigma waits to be uncovered. Nestled in the plains of Ciudad Real, near the edge of the vast La Mancha region, stands Motilla del Azuer, a site that seems to whisper its secrets through the windswept earth and towering stone walls. It is a place that, though less well known than the great wonders of Europe, holds within it a mystery that stretches back over 3,000 years. At first glance, Motilla del Azuer appears deceptively simple, a large circular mound of earth and stone rising above the surrounding flatlands. Yet this unassuming hill hides a fascinating and complex structure beneath its surface, a structure that challenges our understanding of the people who built it and the world in which they lived. The Motilla, as it's known, is the remnant of a large fortified settlement dating to the late Bronze Age, around 1400 BC to 1200 BC, a period marked by the rise of early Mediterranean civilizations and the collapse of many older structures of power. The site is one of the largest and most complex of its kind in Iberia, yet its exact purpose and the identity of its builders remain shrouded in mystery. Motilla del Azuer is defined by its characteristic circular shape. At the heart of the site lies a massive central structure, surrounded by concentric rings of walls and defensive ditches. The construction of these walls, built with large stone blocks, is no small feat. Archaeological evidence suggests that the walls were once topped with defensive towers, providing an imposing presence in the surrounding flatlands. The site's layout also includes a series of large open spaces, which would have been used for communal activities, trade, or social gatherings. Surrounding the central mound, a network of pathways connects the various sections of the settlement, and evidence of agricultural terraces indicates that the inhabitants were engaged in farming as well as living within the walls of the fortress. The sheer scale of the construction at Motilla del Azuer suggests that it was a place of great importance. But why build such an elaborate and massive structure in the middle of a flat, sparsely populated region? What purpose did this fortified settlement serve in a time when most people lived in small villages or nomadic communities? The site's strategic location, overlooking the surrounding plains, hints at a defensive purpose, but the complexity of its design suggests that it was more than just a military outpost. Could Motilla del Azuer have been a center of power, a place where regional leaders or elites gathered to exert influence over the surrounding territory? One of the most striking features of Motilla del Azuer is the presence of an enormous, circular well at the center of the settlement, a feature that sets it apart from many other ancient fortifications. This well, constructed with precisely cut stones, is not merely a water source but appears to have had a symbolic significance. Some scholars suggest that the well may have been central to the religious or ceremonial practices of the settlement's inhabitants, perhaps serving as a connection between the earth and the divine. The importance of water in ancient societies is well documented, and the deliberate placement of such a well within the heart of the settlement raises intriguing questions. Was it simply a source of life for the people who lived here, or was it part of a larger cosmological framework that connected the people of Motilla del Azuer to the forces of nature or the gods? Adding to the intrigue of the site is the mystery of the people who built it. While most of the archaeological evidence points to the presence of a Bronze Age civilization, the identity of the builders remains elusive. Some researchers suggest that Motilla del Azuer was constructed by the Iberians, the early inhabitants of the Iberian Peninsula, but this remains speculative. Other theories propose that the settlement was created by an earlier group of people, perhaps a group with cultural or religious ties to the Mediterranean world, whose influence extended beyond what we traditionally associate with Iberian tribes. Could the builders of Motilla del Azuer have been part of an advanced, yet largely forgotten civilization? If so, what other cultural or technological advancements might they have left behind? While the mainstream explanation for the site's abandonment points to environmental factors and the shifting dynamics of Bronze Age society, there are those who look at Motilla del Azuer from a different angle, suggesting that the site may hold clues to a much older mystery. Some have even speculated that the settlement could be linked to a much older pre-Bronze Age civilization, one whose knowledge and achievements were lost in the sands of time. The well at the center of the settlement, with its symbolic significance and complex construction, has led some to wonder if the builders of Motilla del Azuer were part of a society that had access to forgotten or even lost technologies, an advanced civilization whose secrets were wiped out by time or disaster. Motilla del Azuer, with its massive walls, enigmatic well, and sudden abandonment, is a site that continues to invite speculation and intrigue. As with many ancient places, its true story may never be fully understood, leaving us to ponder the mysteries that lie hidden within the layers of earth and stone. What did the people who lived at Motilla del Azuer believe? What did they know about the natural world, the cosmos, and their place in it? And perhaps most haunting of all, why did they leave it all behind, vanishing into the mists of history, leaving only traces of their existence for us to uncover? The stones of Motilla del Azuer continue to stand, silent and enigmatic, as a reminder that some mysteries may never be solved. And in this uncertainty, we are left with one final question. What other secrets, buried deep within the earth, remain waiting to be discovered by those who dare to ask the right questions? After exploring the vast plains of Motilla del Azuer, we now travel north through the misty, windswept hills of Scotland to a site that stands like a sentinel over the rugged landscapes of Aberdeenshire. Tap O'Noth, an ancient hill fort that has long been a focal point for mystery and intrigue. This elevated site, perched at 1,084 feet above sea level, offers an unobstructed view of the surrounding valley, an ideal vantage point for both defense and observation. But this hill, with its scattered stone remains and commanding position, is not just a vantage point. It is a gateway into the forgotten history of an ancient civilization, one that has left behind cryptic clues and unanswered questions. At first glance, Tap O'Noth might appear to be just another isolated hill, part of the ancient landscape of the Scottish Highlands. Yet, on closer inspection, the prominence of the hill fort becomes apparent. The stone walls that once formed a fortified structure are still visible, winding around the summit like the ruins of a forgotten castle. The fortifications themselves are remarkably well preserved, considering the passage of time. What stands out about Tap O'Noth, however, is not just its size, but its location. Situated within an ancient network of hill forts scattered across the region, many of which date back to the Iron Age, between 500 BC and 100 AD. The hill fort is made of a series of concentric stone walls, some of which are remarkably thick, designed to withstand both time and the forces of nature. The inner core of the hill fort is marked by a large stone structure, sometimes referred to as the stone core, a puzzling feature that sets Tap O'Noth apart from other similar sites. The structure consists of large, carefully placed stones arranged in an almost deliberate pattern. Unlike many Iron Age hill forts, where the focus is primarily on defensive walls, Tap O'Noth's stone core suggests that there may have been something more going on here, something that reaches beyond military strategy or simple habitation. The stone core itself has long been a subject of fascination among archaeologists and historians. Its construction, while clearly utilitarian, also suggests a level of sophistication and planning that surpasses the more conventional designs of the period. Some have suggested that the stone core was a central building, perhaps the residence of an important leader or ruler, while others propose that it could have been a ritualistic or ceremonial space, possibly used for ancient rites or community gatherings. Could the core have had symbolic significance, connecting the people who built it to the land around them, or even to the celestial bodies above? As the stones stand in solemn silence, the questions about their purpose remain unanswered. Despite the stone core's enigmatic design, the hill fort itself fits within a familiar pattern. The people who built Tap O Noth were likely part of the Pictish culture, a group of tribes that lived in what is now Scotland during the Iron Age and into the early medieval period. The Picts, known for their skill in warfare and distinctive artwork, left behind many such hill forts, some of which are scattered across Scotland. These hill forts were typically used for defensive purposes, providing protection from invading forces or rival tribes. Tap O Noth, with its strategically elevated position and defensive stone walls, fits within this tradition, suggesting that it may have served as a stronghold for the Pictish people. Yet, there is something about Tap O Noth that suggests it was more than just a military outpost. The presence of the stone core and its carefully arranged stones hint at a more complex and potentially spiritual purpose. Could the site have been a place of ritual significance, perhaps linked to the ancient beliefs of the Picts? The idea that Tap O Noth could have served a dual purpose, both as a fortress and as a spiritual center, raises intriguing possibilities about the worldview of the people who inhabited it. Archaeological digs have revealed that the Picts had a rich, albeit largely mysterious, religious life. They are known to have practiced rituals that involved offerings to their gods, and some of their sacred sites were aligned with the sun and the stars. Could Tap O Noth have been a ceremonial site where the people gathered not just for protection, but to commune with the divine forces of nature? The strategic location of Tap O Noth further adds to the mystery. Positioned on a hill that offers sweeping views of the surrounding terrain, the site would have allowed its inhabitants to monitor the movements of anyone approaching from miles away. But the location also brings to mind questions of celestial alignment. The Picts were known for their intricate stone carvings and their deep connection to the natural world. Could the site have been positioned with particular astronomical events in mind? Was Tap O Noth designed to align with certain constellations or the path of the sun, perhaps as part of an ancient ritual to honor the gods or mark significant times of the year? Without written records, it's impossible to say for certain, but the very layout of the site invites speculation about its connection to the cosmos. Adding another layer of intrigue to the site is the question of its abandonment. By the early medieval period, Tap O Noth was no longer in use as a hill fort. But what led to its abandonment? Was it a shift in power, a result of the changing tides of history, or perhaps the decline of the Pictish tribes? Some believe that the decline of the Pictish culture in the face of increasing Roman and later Anglo-Saxon influence may have played a role. Others have speculated that the abandonment of Tap O Noth was tied to a larger cultural shift, perhaps as the Picts transitioned from their ancient ways to the Christianized society that eventually took hold in Scotland. But the mystery does not end there. Some fringe theories propose that Tap O Noth might have been built by an even older civilization, long before the Picts arrived in Scotland. These theories suggest that the Picts could have inherited or discovered the hill fort from an earlier unknown culture, one whose knowledge of construction, astronomy, and ritual practices was lost to time. Could Tap O Noth have been the remnant of a much older society, one whose influence on the Picts and their culture we may never fully understand? Could the site have been built by people whose advanced knowledge of the stars, engineering, and ritual was far ahead of their time? The stone core at Tap O Noth continues to stand as a silent witness to the forgotten past. The stones, weathered by centuries of wind and rain, are still arranged in their original patterns, offering no clear answers but inviting speculation. As we look out over the vast expanse of the Scottish Highlands, we are left with the haunting question: what secrets does Tap O Noth hold? Was it merely a fort, a military stronghold, or was it something more, a center of ancient knowledge, a place where the physical and spiritual worlds converged in ways we may never fully understand? The mystery of Tap O Noth, like so many ancient sites, remains unresolved, its true purpose hidden in the stones, waiting for those who dare to uncover its secrets. After wandering through the remote hill forts of Scotland, we now cross the Mediterranean, landing on the sun-drenched island of Corsica, where the stone remains of an ancient fortress continue to defy time and explanation. The Castellu di Cucuruzzu, perched high in the rugged mountains of southern Corsica, is a site of profound mystery. Its weathered stones hold stories of a distant past, stories that have remained largely untold and whose answers seem to slip away with each passing year. The Castellu di Cucuruzzu sits on a rocky outcrop at around 800 meters above sea level, offering a commanding view of the surrounding forests and valleys below. To the casual observer, it might seem like a mere collection of crumbling stone structures. But as you approach the site and walk its narrow, winding paths, the immensity of its history becomes clear. The castle, or rather the fort, is a complex structure of walls, towers, and megalithic stones, evidence of a civilization long vanished, but whose influence still lingers in the air. The most striking aspect of Cucuruzzu is the sheer scale of its construction. The massive stone blocks, some weighing several tons, were carefully placed to form the walls of the fortress. Yet, despite the monumental effort it would have taken to build such a structure, there are no written records to explain its origins or the identity of those who built it. Cucuruzzu is often attributed to the Tartessian or Corsican cultures, with construction thought to have begun as early as the 10th century BC. These people were part of the broader Mediterranean world, trading and interacting with other ancient civilizations, yet their identity remains largely shrouded in mystery. The fortress itself seems to belong to the Bronze Age, but the significance of its design and the reasons for its remote, elevated location raise questions that remain unanswered to this day. The stonework of Cucuruzzu is particularly fascinating. The structures are made of large, roughly hewn stones, some of which appear to be arranged in a way that suggests not just practicality, but a deeper, more thoughtful design. These stones are placed in geometric patterns, sometimes aligning with the natural features of the landscape, sometimes forming neat, though rough, rectangular enclosures. At the center of the site stands a monumental tower, surrounded by walls that wind around the hillside, creating a labyrinthine network of passages and chambers. These walls are not just functional. They are part of a design that suggests symbolic or ceremonial importance. Was this fortress built solely for defense, or was it a place of significance that served both practical and spiritual purposes? One of the most intriguing aspects of Cucuruzzu is the Chamber of the Chief, a small yet imposing structure believed to have been the residence of a powerful leader or ruler. Inside, archaeologists have uncovered a range of artifacts, from pottery to tools, which speak to the everyday life of those who lived there. Yet there is something unsettling about the chamber's construction. The walls are lined with massive, carefully placed stones, and there is evidence of a hearth at its center. But the most puzzling feature is a series of mysterious carvings that adorn the stones, symbols that are unlike anything found in other Mediterranean cultures of the time. What did these symbols mean to the people of Cucuruzzu? Were they part of a religious or spiritual system, or were they simply decorative? And why were they placed within such a prominent space, suggesting a deeper connection to the power and influence of the person who once resided there? Adding to the mystery of the site are the numerous burial chambers scattered throughout the surrounding area. These tombs, carved into the rock or built from stone, contain the remains of the people who once inhabited the area. Yet the nature of these burials is strange. Many of the tombs are located in isolated areas, far from the main settlement, and the bodies within are often placed in unusual positions. Some tombs contain multiple individuals, suggesting that communal burial practices were common. But there are also tombs where the bodies are arranged in ways that suggest ritualistic importance, with offerings and objects placed alongside the deceased. What kind of belief system guided these practices? Was death simply the end, or was there an afterlife that the people of Cucuruzzu believed in? And if so, did their fortress serve as a gateway between the world of the living and the world of the dead? Despite all of these findings, the true purpose of the Castellu di Cucuruzzu remains elusive. Was it purely a military stronghold, a fort designed to defend against invaders? Or was it something more? Something that connected the living with the divine or with the afterlife? The Tartessian people, like many ancient cultures, were deeply connected to the natural world. They built structures that aligned with celestial events, suggesting that Cucuruzzu may have been strategically placed to correspond with the cycles of the moon, the sun, or the stars. Some researchers have speculated that the fortress was constructed in such a way that it was aligned with particular astronomical events, perhaps marking key moments in the agricultural cycle or in religious ceremonies. Was Cucuruzzu an observatory, a place where the people could commune with the heavens and the earth? The question of why the fortress was abandoned remains just as enigmatic. By the time the Romans arrived in Corsica in the 2nd century BC, the once thriving site had fallen into disrepair. But what caused its decline? Was it a result of internal collapse, a shifting of power, or perhaps a natural disaster that forced the inhabitants to leave? Could it have been the arrival of a new, more advanced civilization that rendered the fortress obsolete? Or was there something deeper, perhaps even supernatural, at play? Some force that caused the people of Cucuruzzu to abandon their stone stronghold and disappear from history? There are some who suggest that the people of Cucuruzzu were not just builders of fortresses, but keepers of ancient knowledge that has been lost to time. Could the Castellu di Cucuruzzu have been a center of learning, a place where the people passed down their knowledge of the earth, the stars, and the forces that governed their world? Some even propose that Cucuruzzu may have been linked to a larger, older civilization, whose secrets were lost as their empire crumbled. Was Cucuruzzu simply one more piece in a larger puzzle, a fragment of an ancient story that is yet to be fully understood? As we stand on the rocky outcrop of Castellu di Cucuruzzu, surrounded by the silence of the mountains, the mystery of the site continues to haunt the air. The stone walls, the labyrinthine chambers, the strange symbols, and the burial sites all remain as silent witnesses to a world long gone. But the questions linger. What was the true purpose of Cucuruzzu? And why did the people who once inhabited it leave behind only stone and silence? The answers may be lost forever, but the mystery remains. A reminder that there are still places on this earth where history waits, hidden beneath the surface, waiting to reveal its secrets. Leaving behind the stone remnants of Corsica, we now turn our gaze westward to the wind-swept cliffs of Cornwall in the far southwestern reaches of England, where the Carn Euny ancient village lies tucked away in the dense rolling hills. Surrounded by fields and moorland, this ancient site might seem, at first, like little more than a scattering of stone ruins. But beneath the surface, Carn Euny is a place brimming with mystery and untold stories. In this quiet corner of the world, hidden from the casual traveler, lies one of the most remarkable, yet perplexing archaeological discoveries of ancient Britain. The village of Carn Euny is a part of the Cornish Iron Age, dating back to approximately 500 BC to 100 AD. The site, like many in the British Isles, is defined by its construction of stone huts and walls, clustered together in a way that hints at the communal nature of the people who once lived here. The ruins are relatively simple at first glance. Low, circular stone foundations, some partially collapsed, others still standing, marked by their characteristic dry stone construction. Yet, what sets Carn Euny apart from other Iron Age settlements is its underground features, which suggest that this village was more complex and perhaps more mysterious than we can fully comprehend. At the heart of the site lies the Fogu, an enigmatic subterranean structure that has baffled archaeologists for centuries. The fogu is a long, narrow, and curiously designed tunnel built deep into the earth, its walls composed of large stone blocks. The structure is unlike any other Iron Age building found in Britain, and its purpose remains the subject of ongoing speculation. It's clear that the fogu was deliberately constructed, not as a natural cave but as an architectural feature, and it was clearly significant enough to be built with careful precision. But why would the ancient inhabitants of Carn Euny choose to dig into the earth and build such a peculiar structure? Was it simply a storage space, as some scholars suggest? Or was it something more, a spiritual or ceremonial chamber, perhaps linked to ancient rites or beliefs that have since faded from memory? The fogu at Carn Euny is not an isolated feature. It represents a broader tradition of underground chambers found throughout Cornwall, and particularly in the Cornish Celtic culture. However, the exact purpose of these subterranean chambers is still not fully understood. Some researchers have suggested that the fogu served as a place of refuge, a safe haven during times of conflict or invasions. Others propose that these underground spaces were of a religious nature, serving as ritualistic areas where the people of Carn Euny could commune with the gods or the spirits of their ancestors. The darkness of the fogu, its cool, damp air, and its confined space seem to invite such interpretations. Could it have been a space meant to induce a kind of spiritual trance, or to represent the transition from the earthly realm to the afterlife? The presence of a fogu in a settlement is not in itself unique to Carn Euny, but what is remarkable is how it seems to relate to the broader layout of the village. At the edge of the site, a series of stone-lined wells and other subterranean features further complicate the puzzle. These structures, which are often considered to be wells or water storage areas, add to the sense that Carn Euny was not simply a practical day-to-day settlement, but a place with a complex relationship to the natural world, one that may have believed in sacred forces beneath the earth. The design of these underground structures seems deliberate, and the way they are positioned within the village layout hints that the people of Carn Euny understood their environment in ways that we can only begin to fathom. Beyond the fogu and the subterranean elements, the remains of the village itself raise further questions. The circular foundations of the huts that once formed the village's homes reveal nothing out of the ordinary at first glance. However, what is puzzling is the apparent lack of evidence for a larger settlement structure or a more complex hierarchy. Unlike some of the more centralized Iron Age settlements, where large fortified structures indicate a clear social or political organization, Carn Euny seems to have been a more egalitarian community. The lack of obvious wealth or ceremonial artifacts, such as those found in other significant Iron Age sites, suggests that the villagers did not have the same elite-class structure seen elsewhere in the British Isles. This has led some scholars to speculate that Carn Euny may have been a more religious or ceremonial center, where the importance was placed on community and spiritual connection rather than wealth or status. Could this have been a site where rituals of great significance were performed? Was the underground fogu used for secret ceremonies, a kind of sacred space that linked the living to the unseen forces of the earth or the afterlife? Yet, even with the fogu and the other mysterious features, Carn Euny does not appear to be a place of large-scale burial or ritual sacrifice, as is seen in other parts of the ancient world. The lack of human remains or offerings in the village is striking, raising even more questions about the role of the settlement and its people. Were the inhabitants of Carn Euny simply a group of agricultural workers who lived a peaceful life away from the more chaotic centers of civilization? Or were they part of a larger religious or cultural movement whose beliefs were too obscure for us to fully grasp? Even more perplexing is the timing of the abandonment of Carn Euny. By the late Iron Age, perhaps around the 1st century AD, the village seems to have been abandoned, its underground chambers left empty, and the huts slowly dismantled. The reasons for this remain unclear. Was it the result of changing climate conditions, forcing the people to leave their homes? Or was it part of a broader shift in the social or political fabric of ancient Britain, as the influence of Rome and the larger world began to infiltrate even the remote corners of the British Isles? Some suggest that the villagers of Carn Euny were displaced by forces beyond their control, but others have more speculative theories. Could Carn Euny have been abandoned because the people had fulfilled their spiritual or ceremonial needs and moved on to another site? Or was there some deeper cultural shift that led them to leave their sacred fogu behind? Perhaps the villagers felt that their work at Carn Euny had reached completion, leaving behind an unfinished mystery for those of us who came after. As we stand amidst the stone remnants of Carn Euny, with its quiet stone walls and dark, hollow underground chambers, we are left to wonder, what did the people of this place believe? What drove them to construct such strange and secretive features in their village? And why, after centuries of occupation, did they vanish so suddenly, leaving only the faintest traces of their once thriving community? The answers may remain hidden, buried beneath the earth, locked away in a time long past. But as with many ancient mysteries, Carn Euny calls to us from the past, inviting us to ask and to wonder. After leaving behind the ancient, sacred village of Carn Euny, we now shift our gaze westward, across the vast expanse of South America, to the dry, windswept plains of the Atacama Desert in northern Chile. Here, nestled among the jagged foothills and surrounded by the ever-bleached landscape, lies Pukara de Quitor, a stone fortress whose history is as mysterious as the desert itself. This ancient site, sitting atop a high hill that overlooks the San Pedro de Atacama Valley, has intrigued archaeologists and historians for centuries. What was the purpose of this dramatic structure, and who were the people who built it? Even today, much about the fortress remains a puzzle, making it a place of both fascination and mystique. Pukara de Quitor is an ancient fortified settlement dating back to at least 500 A.D., constructed by the Atacama people, one of the many pre-Columbian cultures that inhabited this region. The fortress, though partially in ruins today, still retains a formidable presence. Massive stone walls, some of which climb steeply along the hillsides, mark the boundaries of the settlement. The construction is impressive. Walls made from carefully cut stone, arranged in defensive patterns, form a series of enclosures that seem designed to hold off invaders. The central structure of the fortress, often referred to as the Citadel, is a complex maze of rooms and corridors, built into the natural rock and strategically positioned for maximum protection. From here, you can see the entire valley below, a vantage point that would have been critical for surveillance and defense. The most striking feature of Pukara de Quitor is its location. The site is perched on a rocky hilltop, surrounded by the vast, arid desert landscape. This high, defensible position suggests that the fortress was built with military purposes in mind, likely to protect the people of the region from hostile forces. But who were these forces? And why was such an elaborate fortress necessary in a land that, for much of its history, was sparsely populated and largely untouched by the larger empires of the time? The mainstream explanation is that Pukara de Quitor was part of a system of defensive structures built by the Atacama people to protect themselves from the aggressive neighboring Inca Empire in the late pre-Columbian period. The Atacama people, like many other ancient groups, were likely involved in a complex network of trade, territorial defense, and cultural exchange. It is believed that the fortress played a vital role in defending these ancient peoples against the rising power of the Incas, who sought to expand their empire into the region. The Inca, known for their vast road networks and military might, were a formidable presence, and it's likely that Pukara de Quitor was part of the larger defense against their expansion. However, there is something unsettling about the Pukara de Quitor fortress. While its function as a military outpost seems plausible, the lack of evidence for large-scale conflict or significant military activity raises questions about its true purpose. Archaeological excavations have not uncovered large numbers of weapons or artifacts typically associated with military sites. Instead, the objects found are primarily agricultural tools, pottery, and other everyday items. This has led some researchers to speculate that the site was not solely a military fortress, but a complex center of community life, trade, or perhaps even spiritual significance. The absence of the expected military remains raises the question: was Pukara de Quitor really a defensive stronghold, or was it something more, a center of culture, religion, or governance? One theory that has gained traction in recent years is that Pukara de Quitor was not just a defensive site, but a place where the Atacama people gathered to hold meetings, conduct ceremonies, or make important decisions. The strategic location of the fortress, high above the surrounding valley, suggests that it could have served as a hub for trade, communication, and religious practice. The Atacama people, like many ancient civilizations, had a deep connection to their environment, and the desert landscape may have played a key role in their spiritual beliefs. Could Pukara de Quitor have been a ceremonial center, a place where ancient rituals were performed to honor the gods, the elements, or the celestial bodies? Some researchers propose that the fortress may have been aligned with astronomical events, such as solstices or equinoxes, reflecting the Atacama people's sophisticated understanding of the stars and their connection to the cosmos. Another intriguing element of Pukara de Quitor is its connection to water. The Atacama Desert, one of the driest places on Earth, is a land where water is a rare and precious commodity. The fortress is situated near the San Pedro River, a lifeline that runs through the valley. The Atacama people likely built their fortress near this river, knowing that control of water sources would be crucial for survival in such an arid environment. This raises the possibility that the fortress wasn't just a defensive structure, but a key point in a larger network of water management and irrigation systems. Were the inhabitants of Pukara de Quitor not only protecting themselves from external threats, but also managing the scarce water resources that were vital for agriculture and survival in the desert? Despite the theories, the true nature of Pukara de Quitor remains elusive. Some speculate that the fortress could have been abandoned by its inhabitants long before the arrival of the Spanish in the 16th century. Its decline, like so many other ancient sites, is not well documented, and little is known about what led to the abandonment of the fortress. Was it the result of conflict, a lack of resources, or the shifting dynamics of the region? Some even suggest that Pukara de Quitor was not abandoned in the traditional sense, but was slowly repurposed over time as the Atacama people adapted to changing political and environmental conditions. There is, however, another theory that adds an even more mysterious layer to the story of Pukara de Quitor. Some fringe theorists propose that the fortress might have been built, or at least influenced, by an unknown civilization, perhaps even one with ties to ancient, lost cultures, or a greater, more widespread network of ancient knowledge. These theorists suggest that Pukara de Quitor's advanced construction techniques and its strategic location could be evidence of a forgotten civilization, one that predates the Atacama people or the Incas. This theory remains speculative, but it invites us to ask, could there have been more ancient forces at work in this region? Forces whose influence and knowledge have been lost to time. As we stand atop the rocky hill, gazing out over the vast expanse of desert and the distant mountains, Pukara de Quitor continues to offer us more questions than answers. Its stone walls and winding passages tell a story of ancient human ingenuity and survival. But the true purpose of this fortress, the reason it was built, the people who lived there, and what they hoped to protect or achieve, remains a mystery. Was it merely a military stronghold, a place of defense against an invading empire? Or was it something far more complex, a center of trade, culture, or spiritual life? As with many ancient sites, the passage of time has eroded the clarity of its story, leaving us to wonder what other secrets does Pukara de Quitor still hold beneath its stones, waiting to be uncovered by those willing to ask the right questions. After journeying through the arid landscapes of Pukara de Quitor and the windswept peaks of the Atacama Desert, we now find ourselves on the remote islands of the North Sea, where the stone monuments of the Henge of Brodgar rise from the earth like ancient sentinels, guarding secrets that stretch back thousands of years. This mysterious site, located on the island of Orkney in northern Scotland, has long captured the imagination of archaeologists, historians, and those with a thirst for the enigmatic. Surrounded by a vast, windswept plain and shrouded in the mist that often clings to the island, the Henge of Brodgar is a place that seems suspended in time, its true purpose and origins slipping just beyond the reach of modern understanding. The Henge of Brodgar is part of the Orkney Islands Neolithic complex, a group of prehistoric sites that includes other wonders such as the Ring of Brodgar and the Maeshowe tomb. It is one of the most remarkable and well-preserved examples of a Neolithic stone circle in Europe, but its purpose and significance remain a puzzle. The monument consists of a large circle of stones, many of which are standing tall in defiance of the centuries that have passed since they were erected. With a diameter of over 100 meters, the Henge of Brodgar is an imposing structure, each stone meticulously placed, their arrangement suggesting an intent far beyond mere decoration. These stones, some of which stand over 4 meters tall, rise from the earth like silent witnesses to an era long forgotten. As we walk among these ancient stones, we begin to feel the weight of history pressing in, each stone speaking volumes in its silence. What compelled the people of Orkney to build such a grand and labor-intensive structure? Who were they, and what did these stones mean to them? Were they simply a display of power, a way to mark territory, or something much more profound, a spiritual or astronomical device, perhaps designed to connect the people with the forces of nature, the cycles of the moon, and the stars above? It is clear that the Henge of Brodgar was more than just a gathering place. It was built with intention, its design reflecting an intricate understanding of both the natural world and the cosmos. The stones themselves offer little direct evidence of the precise purpose of the site. Unlike other megalithic structures, such as Stonehenge, where the arrangement of the stones suggests a clear connection to celestial events, like solstices, the stones of Brodgar do not align with such precision. Instead, the arrangement seems more fluid, as if the builders were more concerned with the feel of the space and the relationship between the stones, the landscape, and the sky. The shape of the circle is not perfectly round but slightly elliptical, as if to suggest a deliberate alignment with the land itself. This has led some to propose that the site was not only a ritual center, but a place designed to engage with the surrounding landscape in meaningful ways, perhaps to mark seasonal changes, to align with certain stars, or to create a space where the energy of the land and the heavens could converge. The theories about the purpose of the Henge of Brodgar vary widely. Some researchers believe it was used for religious or ceremonial purposes, perhaps as a place of worship where rituals were performed to honor the gods or the earth. Given the significance of the Orkney Islands as a nexus of Neolithic culture, Brodgar may have been a central site in a religious network, where people came from far and wide to perform sacred rites. The shape of the henge, with its circle of stones and central space, seems to echo other Neolithic sites known for their ritualistic significance. Could it have been a place where the ancient people of Orkney communed with the spirits of the earth, the sun, or the ancestors? Others propose that Brodgar was an astronomical observatory designed to track the movements of the sun, moon, and stars. Some stones, particularly those around the outer edge of the circle, appear to have been placed in such a way that they could have marked the rising and setting points of celestial bodies. This has led some to speculate that the henge could have served as a kind of calendar, a way to track the passage of time and predict important events such as harvests, solstices, and equinoxes. The significance of the sky to ancient peoples is well documented, and the people of Brodgar would certainly have been keen observers of the stars. The Brodgar Circle, positioned so clearly in the open landscape, seems to have been designed with the heavens in mind, but exactly how it was used remains unclear. Yet, despite these theories, much about the Henge of Brodgar remains unexplainable. While we can see its power, its beauty, and its complexity, the exact meaning of the site remains lost to time. The stones stand, but their stories are no longer told by the people who erected them. What we are left with are the impressions of those who lived long ago, whose lives were so intimately tied to the land and the sky. Could they have had a deeper understanding of the natural world, an understanding that we are only beginning to grasp? Were they aware of astronomical cycles in ways that modern humans are only rediscovering? Or were these stones markers of a more spiritual connection, a bridge between the earth and the heavens that we cannot fully comprehend? Adding to the mystery is the fact that we know so little about the people who built Brodgar. The Neolithic inhabitants of Orkney left behind few clues about their identity or culture. What we do know is that they were skilled stoneworkers and architects, capable of constructing monumental structures without the advanced tools of later civilizations. The Orkney Islands were also a hub of trade and cultural exchange, meaning that Brodgar was likely a place where people from different regions gathered, not only for religious or ceremonial purposes, but for social and political events as well. How did these people, with their limited technology and resources, manage to build such a complex and enduring site? Did they possess knowledge that has since been lost, or was their understanding of the world simply different from our own? Theories abound about the fate of Brodgar. Like many ancient sites, the circle was eventually abandoned. But why? Was it the arrival of new people, new ideas, or new religions that caused the site to fall out of use? Some have speculated that the changing political landscape of ancient Orkney, with the rise of new power structures and shifting alliances, may have led to the decline of the henge. Others suggest that the abandonment was more gradual, as the religious practices associated with the site were slowly replaced by newer, more practical concerns. What remains most striking about the Henge of Brodgar, though, is not just the mystery of its origins or its purpose, but the fact that it still stands today, enduring through centuries of wind and rain, offering no easy answers, but still inviting questions. What secrets do these stones hold? Could there be more beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered? As we walk among the ancient stones, we can't help but feel that there is still much to learn, much to discover about the people who built this magnificent structure. And as we stand in silence, looking out across the rolling hills of Orkney, we are left with one final, haunting question. What else, hidden beneath the earth or concealed in the sky, might still be waiting to be revealed? After venturing through the mystic stone circles of the Henge of Brodgar, we now shift our focus to the sun-dappled hills of Georgia, a land where ancient ruins are etched into the very landscape itself. Here, hidden in the heart of the Caucasus, lies Uplistsikhe, an archaeological marvel whose rock-hewn structures and labyrinthine passageways stretch back over 3,000 years. Standing on a dramatic ridge above the lush valley below, Uplistsikhe offers an eerie and mysterious glimpse into a long-lost civilization, one that flourished in a time and place where the flow of history remains stubbornly obscure. The name Uplistsikhe means the Lord's Fortress in Georgian, and when you arrive at this site, it's easy to see why. The ancient city is carved directly into the rocky mountainside, with over 150 different structures spread across its expanse. These rock-cut buildings, ranging from temples and palaces to residential dwellings and intricate courtyards, appear to rise out of the very rock, their edges smoothed by centuries of wind and rain. The most striking feature of Uplistsikhe is its unique blend of natural geography and human ingenuity. The rocky outcrops, which seem almost unyielding at first glance, have been shaped and transformed by the people who once lived here, creating a settlement that feels as though it belongs to both the earth and the sky. The layout of Uplistsikhe is as captivating as its physical presence. The city is divided into two distinct sections, the upper city and the lower city. The upper city, the most impressive and best preserved, is where the royal residences and ceremonial structures were located. It is here that the ancient temples and the palace complex stand, their carved stone walls still whispering of a time long past. The lower city, though more fragmented, was likely the domain of the common people, with smaller houses and marketplaces scattered along the rocky terrain. As you walk through the site, it's easy to imagine the bustling life that once filled these spaces. Merchants trading goods, priests performing rituals, and families going about their daily routines. Yet, as the wind sweeps through the empty city today, the silence is haunting. Uplistsikhe dates back to the early Iron Age, with its origins believed to trace as far back as the 6th century BC. Over the centuries, it became a center of political, religious, and cultural activity, serving as a strategic point along ancient trade routes. It thrived under various rulers and cultures, particularly during the period of the Kingdom of Iberia, a powerful kingdom that dominated the region for much of antiquity. The city reached its peak in the 1st century BC, before being gradually abandoned in the Middle Ages, likely due to invasions and shifting political powers in the region. However, Uplistsikhe's exact role within this kingdom remains unclear. While it's widely accepted that it was a royal center and a place of religious importance, the full extent of its influence is still a subject of debate. Its location along major trade routes suggests that it was a bustling center of commerce and culture. But what was its primary purpose? Was it primarily a political hub, a religious site, or something more? An intersection of both the sacred and the secular, where the divine and the earthly powers coexisted. Archaeologists have uncovered a range of religious artifacts within the city, including altars, statues, and pottery decorated with symbols of ancient deities, suggesting that Uplistsikhe played a significant role in the religious life of the region. But the exact nature of the rituals performed here, and to what gods they were devoted, remains shrouded in mystery. One of the most intriguing and enigmatic features of Uplistsikhe is its rock-hewn caves, large chambers carved deep into the rock. These caves, some of which are elaborately adorned with frescoes and carvings, have led some researchers to suggest that Uplistsikhe may have had a spiritual significance, far beyond what we can imagine. Some have speculated that the site was not just a settlement but a kind of sacred city, an axis mundi, a place where the human world met the divine. Were these caves places for meditation, worship, or rites of passage? Or were they used for something more practical, perhaps as storage or living quarters for a city that needed to maximize its limited space? The most dramatic and puzzling element of Uplistsikhe is its grand hall, an enormous structure carved from the rock with an intricately designed interior that has baffled scholars. The hall is thought to have been the ceremonial heart of the city, a place where important political decisions were made and rituals were performed. The sheer scale of the hall is mind-boggling, with its vaulted ceilings and vast stone columns creating an atmosphere of awe and reverence. Yet its purpose remains unclear. Was it a temple, a palace, or a combination of both? The precise function of this structure, its connection to both the secular and the sacred, has led some to theorize that Uplistsikhe may have been a kind of hybrid site, where political power and religious authority were intertwined in ways that we can only begin to understand. As we delve further into the site, the mystery of its sudden abandonment begins to loom large. By the medieval period, Uplistsikhe was largely deserted, its stone structures slowly falling into disrepair. Some believe that it was due to invasions by the Arab Caliphate, whose forces swept through the region, displacing the once powerful kingdom. Others suggest that internal factors, such as political instability or changes in trade routes, may have led to the city's decline. Could it have been the rise of new powers in the region, such as the Byzantine Empire or the emerging Kingdom of Georgia, that led to the abandonment of this once thriving city? Or was there something more mysterious at play, perhaps a spiritual or religious shift, a change in the beliefs that once sustained the city's importance? Further adding to the intrigue is the fact that Uplistsikhe was not simply abandoned. Over the centuries, its stones were repurposed and reused by later generations. This has led some to wonder, was the site intentionally forgotten, its meaning obscured by time and neglect? Or did those who came after the fall of Uplistsikhe deliberately try to erase its significance, stripping away its sacred power in favor of new beliefs and new political realities? The silence of Uplistsikhe today is both haunting and inviting. The empty chambers, the vast halls, and the carvings that cover the rock face all speak of a time long past. Yet, they also beckon us to ask, what really happened here? What did the people of Uplistsikhe believe? How did their lives intertwine with the landscape, the sky, and the gods they worshipped? Was Uplistsikhe a mere city? Or was it something far more profound? An ancient center where power, religion, and the mysteries of the world converged. As we stand at the edge of this ancient city, looking out over the expansive plains and rugged hills that surround it, one thing is certain: the story of Uplistsikhe is far from finished. The answers to its many questions may still be buried in the earth, hidden in the stone, or lost in the sands of time. And until they are uncovered, the mystery of Uplistsikhe will continue to intrigue and inspire, reminding us of a past that, while distant, still calls to us in its silence. Following our journey through the enigmatic rock-hewn city of Uplistsikhe, we now find ourselves in the serene forests of northeastern France, where the quiet presence of ancient stones lies in stark contrast to the bustle of modern life. Here, nestled in the region of Lorraine, lies one of the most mysterious and awe-inspiring dolmens in Europe, La Rochère Dolmen. This megalithic structure, a relic from the distant Neolithic period, stands as a testament to the ingenuity and spiritual depth of a long-forgotten people. Yet, despite its age and significance, the dolmen's purpose and the culture that built it remain veiled in mystery, leaving us to wonder, what secrets does it hold beneath its ancient stones? La Rochère Dolmen is a striking sight. A massive capstone, weighing several tons, rests atop a series of upright stones, forming a chamber that seems to emerge from the earth itself. The dolmen is shaped like a simple rectangular tomb, a typical feature of megalithic structures in Western Europe. But its placement, as well as the sheer scale of its construction, hints at something much more significant. The monument is nestled within a quiet clearing in the forest, its rough-hewn stones seemingly at one with the natural landscape, yet also deliberately placed, as though the earth itself were shaped to house this timeless structure. The dolmen's position, facing a particular orientation with the surrounding landscape, suggests that it was not merely an afterthought, but a carefully designed and significant structure in its time. The site is estimated to date back to around 4,000 to 3,500 BCE, placing it firmly within the Neolithic period, a time when humanity was transitioning from nomadic hunter-gatherer societies to more settled agricultural ones. The dolmen, part of a broader tradition of megalithic tombs found across Europe, is one of the many monumental structures that emerged during this period, though unlike some of its more famous counterparts, such as the Stonehenge in England or the Passage tombs of Newgrange in Ireland, La Rochère has remained largely unexplored in popular culture, yet it holds just as much intrigue. What sets La Rochère Dolmen apart from other megalithic tombs is the strange simplicity of its design. Unlike the elaborate stone circles or intricately carved passageways of other megalithic sites, La Rochère consists of a relatively modest rectangular chamber, enclosed by large rough stones. These stones, like the ones in other dolmens, are known as orthostats, and they form a sort of skeletal structure that cradles the enormous capstone above. The capstone itself is an immense slab of stone, carefully balanced atop the upright stones, creating a structure that remains intact after millennia of weathering and erosion. The precise method by which these early builders managed to move and place such large stones is still a mystery, but evidence suggests that they employed an intricate system of levers, ropes, and simple machines to transport and position the rocks. This feat of engineering alone raises questions about the technological capabilities of the people who built La Rochère. How did they achieve such an impressive task with nothing but rudimentary tools? And why did they go to such great lengths to create a structure that was not merely functional, but seemingly monumental? Was the dolmen intended as a simple tomb for the dead, or did it have a far more symbolic or spiritual significance? The sheer scale of the construction implies that it was not just a practical burial site, but one imbued with meaning, perhaps a place to honor ancestors or connect with the divine. While many dolmens were used as burial chambers, La Rochère is unique in that it has never yielded significant human remains or grave goods. Unlike other megalithic tombs, where the remains of the deceased and artifacts have been uncovered, La Rochère has remained eerily empty, suggesting that it may have served a different purpose altogether. Some archaeologists propose that it was used as a ritual site, a place where ceremonial rites were performed to honor gods, ancestors, or celestial forces. The large size of the dolmen and its strategic positioning in the landscape seem to support this theory, hinting at its possible role in ancient spiritual practices. One possibility is that La Rochère was aligned with the movements of the sun or the stars. Many megalithic structures across Europe are known to have been constructed with astronomical significance in mind, and some researchers have suggested that the dolmen's orientation may have been deliberately chosen to correspond with certain celestial events. Was La Rochère used as an observatory or as a ceremonial site to mark important solar or lunar cycles? Could the positioning of the stones have been intended to align with the sun's rise at the solstices or equinoxes? If so, was this alignment tied to the agricultural practices of the people who built the dolmen, perhaps marking the changing seasons, the time for planting or the time for harvest? The absence of human remains and grave goods has led to further speculation about the nature of the site. Could La Rochère have been a site of initiation or a sacred place for the living rather than a resting place for the dead? Was it a place where important rituals were carried out to ensure the fertility of the land, the prosperity of the tribe, or the balance of the natural world? Some have even suggested that it may have been a place of communion with the spirit world, a kind of threshold between the physical and the divine. But what exactly did the people who constructed it believe, and how did they perceive their relationship with the cosmos? While mainstream archaeology leans toward the idea that the dolmen was a burial site or ritual structure, there are fringe theories that propose even more speculative ideas. Some suggest that La Rochère Dolmen could have been part of a larger network of megalithic structures, all functioning together as part of a complex system of sacred sites or astronomical observatories. Others propose that the dolmen was somehow connected to lost or forgotten knowledge, a remnant of an ancient civilization that possessed wisdom far beyond what we now understand. These ideas remain unproven, but they raise intriguing possibilities about the hidden depth of ancient knowledge and the possibility that we have only scratched the surface of understanding the true purpose of such megalithic monuments. As we stand before the dolmen, gazing up at its towering stones, the mystery only deepens. What ancient beliefs inspired its construction? What rituals were once performed beneath its shadow? And how did the builders, with their limited tools and resources, manage to shape and position such an immense structure? Was La Rochère Dolmen a place of connection between the living and the dead, or was it something more, a sacred space where the earthly realm met the divine? The answers to these questions may never fully be uncovered. Yet, like many ancient sites, La Rochère Dolmen continues to stand as a silent witness to a world that has long passed, its stones bearing the weight of a mystery that time may never fully reveal. The lack of human remains, the absence of clear artifacts, and the enigmatic alignment of the stones suggest that there may be far more to this structure than we currently understand. Perhaps the key to unlocking the mystery of La Rochère Dolmen lies not in the earth or the stones themselves, but in the forgotten beliefs and rituals of a people whose understanding of the world transcended the boundaries of time, leaving us to wonder, what other secrets does this ancient dolmen still hold? As we move from the ancient stone structures of La Rochère Dolmen to the more intricate mysteries of the ancient world, we find ourselves in the heart of Anatolia, in modern-day Turkey, where the site of Arslantepe beckons. Situated on a low hill overlooking the fertile plains of the Euphrates River, Arslantepe is an archaeological treasure that has quietly confounded historians and archaeologists for decades. This sprawling site, whose name translates to Lion's Mound, is not only home to a remarkable array of artifacts and architectural wonders, but it also holds an unsettling air of mystery, a mystery that hints at a forgotten civilization and a long-lost knowledge. At first glance, Arslantepe may seem like just another ancient mound, its layered stones and exposed foundations reminiscent of other sites from the prehistoric era. But as you stand there, looking over the vast expanse of land where once an advanced society flourished, a sense of unease creeps in. Arslantepe is no ordinary archaeological site. It is a window into a world that seems ahead of its time, a world that continues to baffle scholars with its intricate architecture, its unknown origins, and the purpose behind its astonishingly advanced urban planning. The site of Arslantepe has been occupied for over 7,000 years, with evidence of settlement dating back to around 3,500 BC, during the early stages of the Bronze Age. What makes Arslantepe particularly intriguing is the sheer scale of its complexity. Unlike many other ancient sites, Arslantepe is not just a single temple, palace, or tomb. Instead, it is a sprawling city that spans several layers of history, with each layer revealing new mysteries. Excavations have uncovered monumental buildings, large defensive walls, residential quarters, and even intricate public spaces. One of the most startling discoveries was the presence of what appears to be a massive palace complex, complete with lavish rooms and a throne room, suggesting a highly organized and stratified society. But the true significance of these findings is still unclear. Was this a city-state, a religious center, or something else entirely? The most striking feature of Arslantepe is its royal palace and the adjacent temple complex. These buildings, some of which have been partially restored, reveal a level of sophistication and organization that would be difficult to attribute to the small rural societies typically associated with the Bronze Age. The walls of the palace complex are adorned with strange, almost otherworldly reliefs that depict scenes of ritual sacrifice, feasting, and religious ceremonies. What's particularly unsettling is the absence of clear references to any known gods or mythologies of the time. These reliefs seem to show rituals, but of what sort? Were these ceremonies dedicated to powerful rulers, or perhaps to divine forces that we can no longer identify? Some of the carvings even depict human figures that appear to be both human and animal, blurring the lines between the natural and supernatural worlds. Could this imagery be a sign of a belief system that merged animal symbolism with human identity? Was there a deeply ingrained spiritual connection between the people of Arslantepe and the wild, untamed forces of nature? Or was this a culture that worshipped something entirely different, something not yet understood? One of the most mysterious aspects of Arslantepe is the discovery of a large stone altar within the temple complex, adorned with intricate carvings. The altar, however, is unlike anything seen in other ancient sites. It is not simply a place of worship. It is a monument to something far darker, perhaps a ritual of power or conquest. The sheer size of the altar, along with the ritualistic objects discovered nearby, suggests that Arslantepe may have been a place where the rulers of the city wielded considerable power, possibly through ceremonial or religious means. But what were the true motivations behind these ceremonies? Were they seeking to control the people through fear and awe, or was there a deeper spiritual dimension to the practices conducted here? Another perplexing feature of the site is the apparent lack of written records. While many ancient civilizations left behind inscriptions or texts to document their histories, Arslantepe offers no such evidence. Instead, what remains are the carvings on the walls, cryptic, undeciphered symbols that hint at a complex language or system of writing that may have once existed but is now lost to time. These symbols appear alongside images of animals, humans, and gods, suggesting that the people of Arslantepe had a rich mythology and a highly developed system of belief. But without a written record to decode their meanings, these carvings remain an enigma, a reminder of the limits of our knowledge. Despite these mysteries, Arslantepe is not just a site of intrigue because of its unknowns. It is also remarkable for what it reveals about early urbanization and societal development. The site's architecture, especially the palace complex, suggests that the people of Arslantepe were pioneers in creating urban centers with advanced building techniques. The city's defensive walls, which still stand in some areas, offer evidence of a society that valued protection and control. The strategic positioning of the city along the Euphrates River also suggests that trade and economic power were central to its existence. Yet, as impressive as these achievements are, we still do not fully understand the social and political dynamics of the civilization that constructed Arslantepe. Were they ruled by a single powerful figure, as the grandiose palace would suggest, or was power more evenly distributed? Did Arslantepe serve as a political or religious center, or was it perhaps both? Something that combined governance and ritual in a way we have yet to fully grasp. As Arslantepe's secrets slowly begin to emerge, new questions arise. For example, why did the city eventually fall into ruin? Was it simply the result of shifting political powers and external invasions, as has often been suggested in the case of ancient cities, or was there something more sinister at play? Some have speculated that the sudden collapse of Arslantepe may have been linked to an internal collapse of its religious or political systems, a loss of faith, or perhaps a dramatic change in the beliefs that had once sustained it. The carvings depicting rituals of power and sacrifice may hint at a society that, in its final days, became consumed by internal strife and fear. Could Arslantepe have fallen not because of foreign invaders, but because its own inhabitants lost the belief systems that had once held them together? Could there also be a connection between the advanced architectural knowledge at Arslantepe and other ancient sites across the region? Was there a larger cultural or technological exchange taking place across the ancient Near East that we have yet to fully comprehend? Some suggest that the knowledge required to build such a complex city might have been passed down from an even older, forgotten civilization. Could Arslantepe be a remnant of a once great culture whose influence stretched across vast regions? Or, conversely, Was it an isolated center of power and knowledge, so unique in its time that it left no lasting legacy? As we stand before the ruins of Arslantepe, the questions seem endless. The mysteries of this ancient city are like pieces of a vast, intricate puzzle. Some parts have been revealed, but many remain shrouded in mystery. What was the true purpose of the rituals and symbols carved into its walls? Who were the people who once lived here, and what drove them to create such a monumental city? How did they develop the sophisticated architecture and urban planning that would eventually become the foundation for future civilizations? Like so many ancient sites, Arslantepe offers more questions than answers, and as researchers continue to unearth its secrets, it invites us to wonder just how much of the past remains hidden beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered. Could there be more buried beneath the rubble, waiting to challenge our understanding of ancient civilizations? And perhaps more importantly, what lessons might Arslantepe still have to teach us about the rise and fall of societies, and the forces, both human and divine, that shape their fates? As we leave the ancient city of Arslantepe behind, the landscape shifts once again, taking us from the fertile plains of Anatolia to the arid, windswept deserts of the Arabian Peninsula. Here, in a remote and relatively unexplored corner of Oman, lies a site that challenges our understanding of early human civilization, Wadi Al-Ayn. Nestled in a lush, fertile valley among the rugged mountains, Wadi Al-Ayn is home to a series of enigmatic structures and carvings that have confounded archaeologists and historians for decades. As we step into this quiet, desolate valley, we're immediately struck by the eerie sense of isolation that surrounds us. The air feels thick with history, yet the site remains largely untouched, its mysteries still hidden beneath the sands of time. The valley of Wadi Al-Ayn lies at the foot of the Hajar Mountains, a region long known for its natural beauty, but also its intriguing archaeological finds. The area is dotted with ancient structures that seem to rise out of the earth itself: tall stone walls, megalithic tombs, and strange rock carvings. Among these, one feature stands out above all others: the large stone platforms, some of which are arranged in strange configurations, while others are isolated, their purpose unclear. These stone structures, many of which resemble early megalithic tombs, suggest that the people who once inhabited Wadi Al-Ayn were part of a sophisticated, organized society. Yet little is known about these people, and their identity remains one of the central mysteries of the site. The most notable of these platforms is an extraordinary arrangement of stones that seems to form a kind of ritualistic or ceremonial space. The stones, many of which are decorated with elaborate carvings and symbols, appear to have been placed with great care and precision. The purpose of these platforms, however, is unclear. Were they altars for religious rituals, or were they simply markers intended to signify something far more abstract, perhaps a connection to the land itself, or even to the stars above? Adding to the intrigue are the strange carvings that decorate many of the stones. These carvings, while not fully deciphered, depict a range of figures, some familiar, others utterly alien to our understanding of ancient iconography. There are symbols that resemble animals, others that appear to be abstract geometric patterns, and yet others that seem to depict human-like figures engaged in some form of ritual or dance. These carvings are often found in places where the stone structures meet the earth, suggesting a deliberate effort to connect the natural world with the man-made. Could these markings have served as part of a broader religious or spiritual practice? Were the people of Wadi Al-Ayn using these carvings to communicate with gods, ancestors, or forces of nature that we can no longer understand? What's particularly unusual about the site is that, unlike other ancient places of worship or burial, Wadi Al-Ayn does not appear to have been a permanent settlement. There are no large-scale buildings or residential areas, and few signs of everyday life. This has led some archaeologists to speculate that Wadi Al-Ayn was a place for seasonal gatherings or pilgrimages, rather than a year-round habitation? Was it a sacred space, one that drew people from surrounding areas for religious or social purposes? Or was it a site of cosmic significance, perhaps a place where people came to align themselves with the forces of nature, to seek guidance from the stars, or to perform rites that connected them with the earth itself? What makes Wadi Al-Ayn even more mysterious is the absence of written records. Unlike other ancient civilizations that left behind inscriptions or texts, the people of Wadi Al-Ayn seem to have left no clear record of their identity, beliefs, or practices. The carvings on the stones are puzzlingly abstract, offering no direct clues as to their meaning. And yet, these symbols seem to point toward a highly developed understanding of both the natural world and the cosmos. The lack of any definitive written language or inscription makes it difficult to decode the meaning of the carvings, leaving the door open to speculation. What were these symbols trying to communicate? Were they representations of a lost language, or were they part of a symbolic system that transcended the need for written words? Adding to the mystique of Wadi Al-Ayn is the site's strategic location. Situated at the intersection of important trade routes that once connected ancient civilizations from Mesopotamia to the Arabian Peninsula, Wadi Al-Ayn was likely a crossroads for a diverse array of cultures. The presence of stone platforms, carvings, and other artifacts suggests that the area may have been used as a gathering place for people from various regions, perhaps even for traders, diplomats, or religious leaders. Could it have served as a hub for cultural exchange, where ideas, goods, and beliefs were shared among different peoples? Or was it a place of isolation, a sacred refuge where only a select few were allowed to enter and perform rituals? The uncertainty surrounding Wadi Al-Ayn has led to a number of speculative theories, some more grounded in evidence than others. Some archaeologists believe that the site was part of a larger network of religious centers, possibly linked to early Arabian cults or ancient tribal practices. The use of stone and the carving of symbols may indicate that the people of Wadi Al-Ayn were part of a broader cultural tradition that spanned much of the Arabian Peninsula. Others suggest that the site may have been an early form of astronomical observatory where the movements of the stars and planets were tracked, and rituals were performed to honor celestial forces. The alignment of the stone platforms with the surrounding landscape and the apparent connection between the carvings and the heavens could support this theory. However, there are those who propose more fringe ideas, that Wadi Al-Ayn may have been a site of interaction with extraterrestrial beings, or that the symbols on the stones represent a form of communication with otherworldly entities. While these theories remain unproven, they add an air of intrigue to the already puzzling nature of the site, and they fuel the ongoing speculation about its true purpose. Despite the range of theories, one thing is clear. Wadi Al-Ayn is a place that has been forgotten by time, yet its significance still resonates in the landscape. The stone platforms, the carvings, and the eerie quiet of the valley all suggest a deep connection between the people who once inhabited this land and the forces that shaped their world. But what exactly did they believe? What did the symbols on the stones represent? And why was this place abandoned? Was it simply the result of a changing climate, or was there a more profound reason for its desertion? As we stand amidst the stone platforms of Wadi Al-Ayn, the questions only deepen. The valley is silent now, but once it may have been alive with the sound of rituals, prayers, and the steps of those who sought answers from the earth and the stars. What remains in the shadows, hidden beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered? The mystery of Wadi Al-Ayn continues to haunt the mind, challenging our understanding of ancient human history and leaving us to wonder what other secrets the desert might still hold. As we journey through the arid beauty of Wadi Al-Ayn, we shift our focus to a quieter but equally fascinating corner of the world, the rugged hills and verdant landscapes of the Isle of Anglesey off the coast of Wales. Here, nestled amid the rolling hills and deep forests, lies Lligwy, an ancient settlement that holds secrets from a time long past. The site, which dates back to the early centuries of the Iron Age, is a remarkable example of the ingenuity and resourcefulness of ancient peoples, yet it is shrouded in mystery. For despite the wealth of archaeological finds unearthed over the years, much of Din Lligwy remains a puzzle, its true purpose and significance elusive, and the people who once lived there remain just out of reach. The first thing that strikes you upon visiting Din Lligwy is the sense of isolation. Surrounded by dense woodland and rolling hills, the settlement is nestled into a naturally defensible location, a kind of hidden enclave that seems to have been chosen for its strategic advantages. The site is an ancient enclosure, a settlement of sorts, but it's unlike the sprawling cities or elaborate fortresses we often associate with ancient civilizations. Instead, Din Lligwy consists of a series of stone walls, structures, and outbuildings scattered across the landscape, giving it the feel of a village that was not only built into the land, but shaped by it. One of the most fascinating features of Din Lligwy is its remarkable stone-built structures. The settlement is centered around a large circular enclosure composed of stone walls that, in some places, stand over a meter tall. These walls once enclosed a series of dwellings, simple yet ingeniously constructed homes built to withstand the harsh winds and unpredictable weather of the region. The use of stone in such a rudimentary way raises questions. How did the people of Din Lligwy quarry and shape the stones? And why did they choose this seemingly remote location to settle? In addition to the stone houses, Din Lligwy is also home to a number of more mysterious stone structures. Among these are large rectangular buildings, some of which are thought to have served as communal spaces or perhaps as storage facilities. These structures stand in stark contrast to the small domestic dwellings, raising the possibility that the settlement may have been used for more than just everyday life. Could Din Lligwy have been a center of trade, a hub of cultural exchange between the various tribes of early Britannia? Or was it more of a self-sustaining community, focused on survival and protection from the surrounding wilderness? What adds to the mystery of Din Lligwy is the lack of significant evidence of a ruling elite or a centralized power structure. Unlike some other ancient settlements where grand palaces or temples point to a hierarchical society, Din Lligwy seems to have been a more egalitarian place, perhaps a tribal community where power was shared among its people. Yet the stone structures, particularly the larger ones, suggest that some kind of organization or leadership was involved in the settlement's design. Who were the builders of Din Lligwy? Were they part of a larger, more complex society that left no written record behind? Or was this a unique settlement, independent and isolated from the world around it? One of the most captivating features of Din Lligwy is the stone hut circles, small round structures that dot the landscape like ancient sentinels. These huts, though now reduced to little more than piles of stone, once served as homes for the people who lived here. The construction of these dwellings is remarkably simple, yet effective. Each hut is built from stones carefully arranged to form a circular foundation, with an entrance facing a specific direction, toward the center of the settlement, or perhaps toward a specific landmark, like a nearby hill or river. But what were these small homes truly used for? Were they just places of residence, or did they have a more symbolic or spiritual role within the settlement? The arrangement of the huts seems deliberate, almost as if the people of Din Lligwy were following an unseen pattern, a connection to the land or the cosmos perhaps, a mystery we may never fully understand. The lack of artifacts at Din Lligwy adds another layer of intrigue. While other ancient settlements of similar age often yield a wealth of pottery, tools, and everyday items, Din Lligwy has yielded far fewer material objects. A handful of pottery shards, a few iron tools, and the remnants of some domestic items have been uncovered, but the site does not seem to have been a place of great wealth or cultural exchange. What does this tell us about the people who lived here? Were they a humble, self-sufficient community that lived in relative isolation from the rest of the world? Or were they part of a larger, more complex social network, their material wealth simply hidden or lost over time? One theory about Din Lligwy is that it was a settlement for a specific purpose, perhaps related to ancient religious or ceremonial practices. The site's location, its strategic positioning on a hill, and the circular arrangement of its buildings all point to the possibility that the settlement had a symbolic or spiritual significance. Was Din Lligwy a place where ancient rituals were carried out, where the people came together to honor their gods or ancestors? Or were the stone structures aligned with the cycles of nature, marking the solstices or lunar phases as many other ancient sites were? Adding to the intrigue are the nearby megalithic monuments scattered across the landscape. The presence of these structures, like standing stones and stone circles, suggests that the people of Din Lligwy were not isolated in their beliefs or practices, but part of a larger tradition that spanned much of prehistoric Britain. These megalithic sites, though they may not be directly linked to Din Lligwy, raise questions about the interconnectedness of ancient peoples. Could these structures, which often align with celestial events or landscape features, provide clues to the spiritual or symbolic importance of Din Lligwy itself? As we stand amidst the ruins of Din Lligwy, it's hard not to be struck by the sense of mystery that permeates the site. The simple stone huts, the intricate arrangements of walls, and the quiet solitude of the surrounding landscape all speak of a people who lived in harmony with their environment, and yet whose lives we know so little about. What was the purpose of this settlement? Was it a place of refuge, a place of ritual, or something entirely different? The absence of definitive answers only deepens the mystery, leaving us with more questions than we began with. Could there be more to Din Lligwy than we currently understand? Are there hidden chambers beneath the stones, forgotten relics waiting to be unearthed? Or perhaps the true significance of Din Lligwy lies not in the physical remnants, but in the deeper connections between the people and the land, the spirit world and the physical realm. The answers may lie hidden in the very stones themselves, waiting for the right moment to reveal their secrets. But for now, Din Lligwy remains one of the many unsolved mysteries of our ancient past, a quiet testament to the people who lived here and the world they left behind. As we leave behind the quiet stone circles of Din Lligwy, we now journey to the windswept hills of Derbyshire in central England, where another ancient mystery beckons: Arbor Low Henge. This ancient site, often referred to as the Stonehenge of the North, is a place that, much like its more famous counterpart, commands a sense of awe and wonder. Hidden away in the desolate, rolling moorlands, Arbor Low consists of a vast stone circle and a surrounding earthwork, yet, like so many of the world's ancient monuments, it raises more questions than answers. Upon first encountering Arbor Low, the first thing that strikes you is the eerie stillness that permeates the area. The site is perched on a hilltop, offering sweeping views of the surrounding countryside, a landscape that has been untouched by modern development. The henge itself, an earthen bank encircling a ring of standing stones, appears almost ghostly in the soft light of dawn or dusk, casting long shadows across the grass. The stones, though weathered and worn by millennia of exposure, stand in quiet defiance of the passage of time. There's something otherworldly about the way they appear, their massive forms rising out of the earth, seemingly waiting for something, or someone, to come forth from the mist. Arbor Low Henge is thought to have been built around 4,000 years ago, during the late Neolithic period or early Bronze Age, a time when humans were just beginning to settle into more permanent communities. The site consists of a circular bank and ditch, enclosing a central stone circle of 50 to 60 stones, though only a fraction of these stones remain standing today. In the center of the henge is a large, flat stone, likely a cromlech or altar stone, which may have played a central role in the rituals carried out at the site. Despite the apparent simplicity of the structure, there's something hauntingly powerful about the place. Its size, its shape, and its location suggest that it was used for something more than just a functional purpose. The purpose of Arbor Low, like many other ancient monuments, remains shrouded in mystery. While it is widely believed to have been a ceremonial site, perhaps used for religious or social rituals, what those rituals entailed is still unknown. Some archaeologists speculate that Arbor Low may have been a site for ancestor worship, a place where the dead were honored and revered, or where rites of passage were performed to mark the changing seasons or the cycles of the moon. The central altar stone could have been a focal point for these ceremonies, where offerings or sacrifices were made to the gods or spirits believed to reside in the land. Yet, despite its apparent use as a sacred site, there is no conclusive evidence of burial at Arbor Low. This absence of human remains has led to some fascinating questions about the nature of the rituals performed here. Was the site used exclusively for ceremonial purposes, or did it also serve as a gathering place for the community to come together in times of crisis, celebration, or religious observance? Could it have been a space where people connected with the cosmos, where the alignment of the stones, the earthworks, and the surrounding landscape played a role in rituals tied to the sun, the stars, or the changing seasons? The most puzzling aspect of Arbor Low, however, is the way the stones are arranged. While some stones are still standing, the majority of them have long since toppled, leaving only their broken stumps to mark their place. Many of the stones that remain standing are also significantly smaller than those of other henges, such as Stonehenge, and yet their position within the circle suggests they were deliberately placed for a purpose. The alignment of the stones hints at some kind of celestial significance, with certain stones appearing to point toward specific locations on the horizon, perhaps the rising or setting sun at the solstices, or perhaps the stars. Did the builders of Arbor Low have an understanding of the stars and celestial movements that far exceeded what we might expect for their time? One of the most intriguing features of Arbor Low is the large flat stone at the center of the henge. Though its purpose remains unclear, it seems to be the focal point of the entire site. Some scholars believe this stone was an altar, used for sacrifices or rituals. Others suggest it could have been a place of divination, where spiritual leaders or shamans would commune with the gods to receive guidance or insight. Still, others believe that the stone was used in more mundane activities, perhaps for meetings or gatherings that took place within the circle. The stone's worn surface and the way it dominates the center of the henge suggest that it held great significance to the people who once gathered here. Though no one knows exactly what occurred at Arbor Low, the place is steeped in legend. Local folklore speaks of the Devil's Chair, a large flat stone nearby that supposedly serves as a throne for the devil himself. Such stories hint at a deeper, more mystical association with the site, suggesting that the people who built Arbor Low may have believed in a world populated by both gods and spirits, entities that could influence their daily lives. Whether these stories are rooted in ancient truths or later folkloric embellishments remains unknown, but they do add another layer of mystery to the already enigmatic site. Some researchers have even suggested that Arbor Low might have been a site where early forms of astronomy were practiced. The alignment of the stones with particular stars or celestial events, such as the solstices, could suggest that the people of the Neolithic period had a sophisticated understanding of the skies. In fact, similar stone circles and henges across Britain, including Stonehenge, show clear signs of being deliberately aligned with astronomical events. Could Arbor Low have served as an observatory, allowing the ancient people to track the movements of the sun, moon, and stars? Were these celestial observations part of a religious practice, or was there a more practical reason for the site's astronomical alignment, perhaps tied to agriculture or timekeeping? Another theory that has been proposed is that Arbor Low was part of a larger network of henges and ritual sites, connected by a shared belief system. If this is the case, then Arbor Low would have been just one piece in a complex puzzle of sacred sites scattered across Britain. Each site would have played a different role, with some serving as burial sites, others as places for astronomical observation, and still others as sites of social or religious gatherings. But as with many ancient mysteries, we are left to wonder, was Arbor Low connected to these other sites, or was it something entirely unique, a singular creation by a people who have left no written record to explain their purpose? As we stand amidst the crumbling stones of Arbor Low, the mystery of the place is undeniable. The circular bank, the central stone, the fallen pillars, all speak to a time long past when this site was alive with activity and purpose. But the purpose of Arbor Low remains elusive, lost to history. Was it a place of ritual, a place of observation, or something more? The lack of clear evidence leaves us only with speculation, and the theories, whether they involve celestial alignments, spiritual practices, or social gatherings, are all tantalizing possibilities. One thing is certain: Arbor Low Henge remains a site of immense significance, even if we can't fully comprehend it. The questions it raises about ancient beliefs, astronomical knowledge, and the spiritual practices of the Neolithic peoples are as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. Could there be more buried beneath the earth, hidden from view? Or is the true significance of Arbor Low something beyond what we can understand? Perhaps a key to unlocking the mysteries of an ancient culture whose beliefs were intricately connected to the land, the stars, and the earth beneath their feet. The answers may lie hidden, waiting for the right discovery or insight to bring them to light. But for now, Arbor Low stands as a silent witness to a forgotten past, its true meaning lost in the windswept moors of time. As we leave behind the enigmatic Arbor Low Henge in the rolling hills of Derbyshire, we turn our attention eastward, toward the arid expanses of the Saudi Arabian desert. Here, among the windswept sands and rocky outcrops, lies a mystery that has puzzled archaeologists and historians for decades. Rathgall, a site known for its imposing standing stones, arranged in a way that evokes a sense of ancient ritual and celestial alignment. Unlike the well-known stone circles of Britain or the Mediterranean, Rathgall stands alone in the desert, its purpose and origins still clouded in uncertainty. Yet it is a place that speaks volumes through its silent, towering stones, each one a witness to the passage of millennia. Rathgall, also known as the Saudi Stonehenge, is located in the Hale region, north of Riyadh, and is part of a vast archaeological complex that includes other ancient stone structures scattered across the desert landscape. This site consists of over 50 upright stones, some standing as tall as 2.5 meters, arranged in rows, and at first glance, Rathgall might seem like an ordinary stone alignment. However, upon closer inspection, it becomes clear that there is something unique about this site. Its deliberate arrangement, its precise orientation, and the enigmatic carvings that decorate some of the stones all suggest a level of planning and understanding far beyond what might be expected from the nomadic peoples who once roamed the region. The stones of Rathgall are placed in a long line that stretches across the desert floor, each stone carefully positioned to form rows and clusters, creating a distinct visual pattern. The site itself is spread over a large area, and the stones are arranged in such a way that they align with the natural landscape, as well as with celestial features, such as the rising and setting of the sun, the stars, and perhaps even the moon. This alignment suggests that the people who constructed Rathgall were keenly aware of the movement of the heavens, a knowledge that was likely tied to their spiritual or agricultural practices. The stones themselves are made of local sandstone, a material that has weathered over time, leaving the stones worn and eroded. Yet, despite the wear of centuries, many of the stones still stand proudly in their original positions, an enduring testament to the skill and labor that went into their construction. Some of the stones are adorned with mysterious markings, carvings that resemble geometric patterns, symbols, and shapes, though their meaning remains elusive. These carvings are unlike the intricate script of later civilizations, suggesting that the people of Rathgall may have communicated through symbols and imagery rather than written language. But what did these carvings signify? Were they signs of religious belief, markers of important events, or part of a more profound spiritual system? While the precise dating of Rathgall is still debated, estimates suggest that the site dates back to around 3000 BC to 2000 BC, placing it in the midst of the Bronze Age. However, the true nature of the civilization that built Rathgall remains a subject of intense debate. Were these people early settlers of the Arabian Peninsula? Or were they part of a broader, now lost culture that spanned across the Middle East? There is no clear evidence of permanent settlements nearby, suggesting that the site might have been used intermittently by nomadic peoples who roamed the desert in search of water and grazing land. Alternatively, some archaeologists speculate that Rathgall could have been part of a larger network of ceremonial or ritual sites linked by a shared belief system or trade routes that stretched across the region. Despite its isolated location, Rathgall shares certain features with other ancient sites around the world. The alignment of the stones with celestial events is reminiscent of the way ancient peoples in Britain, Europe, and Mesoamerica constructed their monuments to align with the solstices, or the rising and setting of certain stars. The precise positioning of the stones could suggest that Rathgall was not just a ceremonial space, but also a place for astronomical observation. Were these people tracking the movement of the stars, perhaps for agricultural reasons, or were they using the heavens as a guide for spiritual or ritualistic purposes? Could Rathgall have functioned as a place where the ancient people of the Arabian Peninsula sought to commune with the divine forces of the cosmos, aligning their lives with the cycles of the universe? One of the most striking features of Rathgall is the way the stones are grouped together. In addition to the rows of upright stones, some of the stones are arranged in clusters or circles, suggesting a more complex and nuanced design. These clusters may have served a specific function, perhaps as places for ritual gatherings or as focal points for ceremonies. The presence of large, flat stones in some areas may also point to the possibility that Rathgall was used for sacrifices or offerings, though no direct evidence has been uncovered to confirm this. The mystery deepens when one considers the absence of any nearby settlements or large-scale structures, making it unclear who exactly the people of Rathgall were or what their societal structure looked like. Adding to the intrigue is the relative obscurity of Rathgall in the context of ancient Arabian archaeology. Unlike the more well-known archaeological sites of the Middle East, such as Babylon or Petra, Rathgall has remained a relatively obscure and understudied site, despite its remarkable features. Why has this site been overlooked for so long? Is it simply because it lies in such a remote and difficult-to-access area, or is there a deeper reason? Could it be that the true significance of Rathgall has been lost over time, hidden from view by the shifting sands of the desert and the passage of centuries? The lack of direct evidence connecting Rathgall to any known civilization is both fascinating and frustrating. There are no inscriptions or written records to identify the people who built it, and few artifacts have been found in the immediate vicinity. This lack of material culture has led some to suggest that Rathgall was built by an unknown pre-Islamic culture, a society whose existence may have been entirely forgotten by the time the first historical records of the Middle East were written. The possibility of a lost civilization adds another layer of intrigue to the site, suggesting that Rathgall could be the last remaining trace of a people whose influence or presence has long since faded from history. The absence of burial sites or human remains at Rajagil further complicates our understanding of its purpose. Unlike other ancient stone sites where graves or cremations have been found, Rajagil offers no direct evidence of the dead. Could the site have been a purely ritualistic or astronomical center where the focus was on the living and their relationship to the heavens? Or might the lack of burial evidence point to a different use altogether, one that we have yet to fully comprehend? As we stand before the towering stones of Rajagil, there is an overwhelming sense of both awe and mystery. The stones, weathered and ancient, continue to watch over the desert, their purpose still veiled in obscurity. Were they erected as part of a grand religious or astronomical tradition? Were they markers of a forgotten civilization, or perhaps remnants of a more widespread cultural network that connected ancient peoples across the Middle East? The absence of clear answers leaves us with more questions than solutions, questions that may never be fully answered. Yet as the sun sets over the desert and the shadows lengthen, one cannot help but wonder, what truths might still lie hidden beneath the sands of Rajagil, waiting to be uncovered in the future? And perhaps more intriguingly, how much of this ancient mystery is still locked away, waiting for us to piece together the fragments of a forgotten past? As we transition from the arid, sun-baked expanses of Rajagil in Saudi Arabia to a distant and equally enigmatic corner of the world, we find ourselves standing amidst the rocky desert landscape of Ethiopia, where another monumental mystery awaits. Yeha, the site of the ancient Great Temple. In the heart of the Tigray region, this colossal structure remains one of the most awe-inspiring and perplexing archaeological sites of the Horn of Africa. The temple, whose towering walls and formidable architecture still stand today, offers us a glimpse into a civilization that, like many others, has left behind only fragments of its story. Yet, it is a story that beckons to be uncovered, one shrouded in both mystery and majesty. The Yeha Great Temple is an imposing structure, one that, even in its ruinous state, commands attention. Its massive stone walls rise from the desert floor like the bones of a forgotten world, a testament to the engineering skill and spiritual devotion of a people who lived here thousands of years ago. Though now scattered and weathered by the sands of time, the remnants of the temple suggest an awe-inspiring structure, once adorned with intricate carvings and decorated stones, a space designed not just for the practical purposes of religious rituals, but also as a place to impress, to awe, and to connect with the divine. The temple was built around the 7th century BC during the reign of the Demat kingdom, a polity that flourished in the highlands of Ethiopia and Eritrea. Yeha was once the center of this kingdom, a place of both political and spiritual power. The Great Temple was the heart of this ancient city, a symbol of the kingdom's wealth, its power, and its devotion to the gods. But as with many ancient sites, its true purpose and the specifics of its worship remain elusive. What exactly were the people of Yeha trying to communicate with the towering walls and sacred chambers? Was the temple dedicated to a specific god or pantheon of deities, or did it serve a more universal spiritual function for the society at large? The temple itself is an imposing structure, built from massive blocks of stone that fit together so precisely it is hard to imagine how such an undertaking was possible without advanced tools and techniques. The architecture is unlike anything else found in the region, suggesting an influence that may have stretched beyond the borders of the Demat kingdom, a connection to distant lands, ancient empires, or even lost cultures. Some scholars have speculated that Yeha may have been influenced by the architectural traditions of Egypt, particularly the monumental temples and pyramids of the Nile Valley, which were constructed around the same period. The resemblance is striking, both in the size and scale of the structures, as well as in the use of massive stone blocks, many of which have been cut and shaped with an almost incomprehensible precision. Did the people of Yeha borrow ideas from the great civilizations of the Nile, Or is it possible that the similarities between Yeha and Egyptian architecture point to an even older, shared tradition of monumental building? As we examine the Yeha Great Temple, we also begin to notice the intricate carvings and reliefs that decorate the stonework. Many of these carvings depict animals, gods, and ritual symbols, providing us with a glimpse into the religious beliefs of the people who built this temple. The presence of animal motifs, such as leopards and lions, may suggest the importance of these animals in the spiritual life of the Dempt Kingdom. Was the temple a space dedicated to the worship of specific deities associated with these animals? Or were they symbolic of greater forces, such as strength, protection, or fertility? The carved figures are worn and faded, but they hint at a sophisticated religious culture, one that used art and symbolism to convey deep spiritual truths that perhaps we can only guess at. One of the most remarkable features of the Yeha Great Temple is its alignment with the surrounding landscape. The temple is positioned in such a way that its entrance faces a distant mountain, which was likely of great importance to the people who constructed it. Mountains, in many ancient cultures, were seen as sacred places, often associated with the gods or with the afterlife. Was this mountain a place of pilgrimage for the people of Yeha? Did they believe that the gods dwelled atop the mountain, or that it was a link between the earthly realm and the divine? The alignment of the temple with the mountain suggests a deliberate effort to integrate the sacred site with the natural landscape, a practice that was common among many ancient cultures who believed that the divine was not separate from nature, but intrinsically connected to it. Despite the grandeur of the temple and the sophistication of its design, there are few definitive records that tell us about the people who built it. Unlike other ancient civilizations, the Dempt Kingdom did not leave behind written records, and much of what we know about the kingdom comes from archaeological excavations, ancient inscriptions, and the study of the temple itself. Some scholars have speculated that Yeha was a powerful center of trade, perhaps serving as a crossroads for the exchange of goods, ideas, and cultural influences between the ancient peoples of the Arabian Peninsula, the Horn of Africa, and even as far afield as Egypt and the Mediterranean. Could the Dempt Kingdom have been part of a larger, long-forgotten trading network, one that spanned much of the ancient world? Or was Yeha primarily a religious and political center, with its influence limited to the highlands of Ethiopia? The lack of written records leaves us with only conjecture, and this uncertainty opens the door to many speculative theories. Some have suggested that the construction of the Yeha Great Temple was part of a broader religious revival, a time when the people of the Dempt Kingdom sought to reassert their power and identity through monumental architecture and spiritual devotion. Others have pointed to the possibility that the temple was not just a place of worship, but also a site for astronomical observations, where the alignment of the stones and the celestial events that occurred throughout the year held profound spiritual meaning for the people. Could the people of Yeha have used the temple to track the movement of the stars, to predict the seasons, or to divine the will of the gods? The positioning of the temple, its alignment with the surrounding mountains, and the symbolism embedded in the carvings all point to a culture deeply attuned to the rhythms of the natural world. Yet, there are still many unanswered questions. Why did the Dempt Kingdom fall into decline, and what happened to the people of Yeha? The temple, though a monumental achievement, seems to have been abandoned long before the rise of the Aksumite Empire, which later came to dominate the region. Was Yeha abandoned due to shifts in political power, the decline of trade, or changes in religious beliefs? The reasons for its abandonment remain unclear, and no definitive evidence has been found to explain why such a magnificent temple would fall into ruin. As we stand before the remains of the Yeha Great Temple, the sense of mystery is undeniable. The towering stones, the precise construction, and the sacred carvings speak of a culture that once flourished, but whose secrets are now hidden in the sands of time. What was the true purpose of this temple? Was it a place of astronomical observation, a center of trade, or a sacred space where the divine and earthly realms intersected? And what of the people who built it? Who were they, and what happened to them? The answers to these questions may be lost forever, buried beneath the sands of Ethiopia, but the temple remains as a silent witness to a forgotten time, a place where the gods and the earth once met. And perhaps, in the quiet ruins of Yeha, the story is still waiting to be told. As we delve deeper into the mystery of Yeha, we are reminded of the human desire to understand and connect with forces beyond our comprehension. The people of the Dimet kingdom dedicated their greatest efforts to creating a space where the divine and the earthly could converge, an achievement that still stands today. Yet, as much as the temple offers us in terms of its physical presence, it remains a symbol of a lost world. The absence of written records means that much of the cultural context surrounding this site is left to interpretation, inviting theories but leaving questions open. What was the true relationship between the temple and the Demte rulers? How did they see their connection with the gods, and what was their view of the natural world as reflected in the architectural alignment with mountains and the heavens? These questions are part of the larger puzzle that continues to elude modern scholars. In the end, the mystery of Yeha is not just about an ancient structure lost in time, but about the people who built it and the society that once revered it. What we have today is a mere fragment of their story, yet that fragment speaks volumes. Perhaps the key to unlocking the full narrative lies not in further excavations or discoveries, but in understanding the spiritual and cultural beliefs that underpinned their civilization. For now, the temple stands as a beacon to both the past and the unknown, silently guarding its secrets as we continue to search for answers. And as we stand before the ruins of Yeha, we are reminded that not all mysteries are meant to be solved. Some are destined to remain just beyond our reach, inviting us to wonder, to seek, and to learn from the stories that still echo through the stones. As we continue our journey through the shifting sands and ancient stones of Yeha, we find ourselves once again in the highlands of Ethiopia, this time venturing to a site that has long captured the curiosity of archaeologists and historians alike. Dungur Stonehouse. Situated in the northern part of Ethiopia, near the ancient Aksumite city of Aksum, this mysterious stone structure is one of the few surviving relics of a once thriving civilization whose history remains largely shrouded in the mists of time. At first glance, Dungur is an imposing structure. Unlike the typical mud brick buildings of the time, Dungur Stonehouse stands as a testament to the craftsmanship and engineering prowess of the Aksumite kingdom. Built from massive blocks of stone, the structure exudes an air of ancient authority. Its walls thick, its corners sharply defined, and its entrance seemingly designed to ward off intruders or unknown forces. Unlike the grander, more publicly visible monuments like the famous Aksumite obelisks, Dungur stands in relative isolation. Its purpose has long been a subject of speculation, and although some archaeologists believe it to be part of the ancient royal complex, its true function remains elusive. As we stand before Dungur, its gray stones are weathered, with the once crisp lines now softened by centuries of exposure to the harsh Ethiopian climate. The structure's height is impressive, though much of it has collapsed over the years. Yet, what remains speaks to a culture that understood both stone construction and the significance of monumental architecture. The building, originally thought to be a type of temple or royal residence, features an unusual design. Its narrow rectangular form and its symmetrical repetitive layout set it apart from other Aksumite structures. Unlike other Aksumite buildings, which were primarily intended for public or residential use, Dungur stands apart in its singularity, evoking a sense of purposeful isolation. Some archaeologists believe that the Dungur Stonehouse was a royal tomb or shrine, perhaps associated with the sacred kingship of the Aksumite emperors. The Aksumites, known for their powerful influence in East Africa during the 1st millennium BC and the 1st century AD, were masters of stoneworking, leaving behind a series of monumental structures, such as the towering obelisks of Aksum, which remain a wonder to this day. However, Dungur is not just another monument. It is a structure with an enigmatic purpose, whose function has puzzled scholars for generations. Was Dungur a tomb, as some have suggested, or was it a place for more mystical or ritualistic purposes? Could it have served as a royal sanctuary where the Aksumite kings and queens would commune with their gods, seeking divine guidance for their rule? The absence of inscriptions or clear evidence of burial makes this theory difficult to confirm. There are no bodies or royal artifacts to suggest that Dungur served as a final resting place for the dead. Yet, the very design of the structure hints at a place of reverence. Its sturdy stone walls, its isolation from the city, and the elevated position all suggest that it may have been a space dedicated to more than mere residence. Interestingly, Dungur is also notable for its connection to the larger Aksumite religious tradition. Like many ancient civilizations, the Aksumites believed in powerful deities who controlled the forces of nature, and many of their sacred spaces were designed to connect their rulers with these divine forces. It is possible that Dungur was designed as part of the Aksumite religious system, a focal point where rulers could perform religious ceremonies, possibly even making offerings or sacrifices to the gods they worshipped. The Aksumite religion, which blended indigenous African beliefs with influences from Palestine, Arabia, and the Mediterranean, was a complex and multifaceted system, and Dungur may have played a key role in maintaining the balance between the human and divine realms. Another theory that has emerged regarding Dungur is its potential connection to astronomical or astrological practices. The ancient Aksumites were known to have had an advanced understanding of the heavens, using astronomical observations to track the movements of the stars and celestial bodies. The orientation of the Dungur Stonehouse, its alignment with certain cardinal directions and its positioning in relation to the surrounding hills and valleys, suggests that the structure may have been used for astronomical purposes. Could it have been an observatory where the movements of the stars, sun, and moon were studied and interpreted by priestly astronomers? The role of celestial events in the life of the Aksumite people cannot be overstated, and Dungur may have served as a place to mark important events on the calendar such as solstices, eclipses, or other cosmic occurrences. Yet another layer of intrigue surrounding Dungur is its relationship to other archaeological sites in the region. The Aksumite kingdom, which flourished between the 1st and 7th centuries AD, was a vast empire, stretching from the Red Sea coast in the east to the highlands of Ethiopia and Eritrea in the west. The Aksumites were heavily influenced by the Mediterranean world and by Palestinian and Arabian traditions, as evidenced by the similarities between their architecture and the religious practices of these distant lands. Could Dungur have been part of a larger ceremonial complex, perhaps connected to the famous Aksumite obelisks or the nearby ruins of the Queen of Sheba's palace? Was Dungur intended to serve as a key node in the Aksumite religious and political network, tying the various parts of the kingdom together in a shared ceremonial space? As we examine the Dungur Stonehouse, we are confronted with an architectural enigma, a structure that, despite its imposing presence, remains largely shrouded in mystery. Theories abound about its function, but no definitive answers have emerged. Was it a royal tomb, a religious shrine, or an astronomical observatory? Was it a place for the sacred and the profane to converge, a space where the divine was called upon to guide the rulers of the Aksumite kingdom? The possibilities seem endless, and yet the lack of conclusive evidence leaves us in a state of uncertainty. Perhaps one of the most perplexing aspects of Dungur is its isolation. Unlike the more famous Aksumite sites, such as the towering obelisks or the ruins of the palaces, Dungur stands apart, away from the bustling heart of the ancient city. Its position, high up in the hills and far from the well-worn paths of trade and communication, suggests that it may have been a place reserved for special, perhaps even secret, activities. Could it have been a site for royal initiations, a hidden space where the rulers of Aksum sought to establish their legitimacy by communing with the divine or through acts of ritual purification? Or was it a site dedicated to cosmic observation, a place where the kings and priests could read the stars in search of guidance and favor? As the sun sets over the desolate hills of Aksum, casting long shadows over the ancient stones of Dungur, we are left to ponder these questions. The mysteries of this stone structure are as compelling as they are elusive. What was the true function of Dungur? What secrets lie buried within its weathered walls? The answers may never be fully known, but the sense of wonder and mystery it evokes remains, drawing us ever closer to the enigma of this long-forgotten place. Could more discoveries lie hidden in the stones, waiting for the right archaeologist, the right technique, or the right insight to unlock the past? Only time will tell. And for now, Dungur stands as an eternal reminder of the ancient peoples who once dwelled in the highlands of Ethiopia, a people whose legacy still holds a powerful grip on our imagination.